junglers that we've had in LCK history, duking it out against one another. In fact, there's just a lot of junglers involved in today's match, like Mowgli over there as well. Like, it just seems that a lot of the junglers are the ones that turn into coaches, as it turns out. Shout out to Hajani as well, who joined DK and was here yesterday. But we have Vi and the Varus both banned away here to start things off for Humble Life Esports. The Yone going to be taken away from Zeka and Zeus. Not a lot of surprises there.
Yeah, and the Gwen is not a shocker either. Varus banned here could mean that Viper's looking for a Kalista first pick with this setup. I think it would make a lot of sense. Of course, Naafiri hasn't had the best results here in the LCK, even though we did see Lucid win on it yesterday. It was in part due to him stealing an objective and not about Naafiri's kit necessarily that much.
That game was way closer than it had any right to be. You're exactly right.
They actually banned the Kalista as well here. So both of ours and the Kalista taken away on blue side.
Yeah, okay.
And this could be where Naafiri gets slotted in. Might just be best to ban Peanut Skarner though. That's what I would do in this scenario, because he's just so incredibly good at it. He was playing it before it was reworked, and that's a pick you have a ton of agency on. A lot of thought going into this one. I think a little bit stumped by the Varus and Kalista bans on blue side here.
Yeah, it's an odd one. I think Naafiri sort of standing out as that first pick, so that one will be banned away. Still quite a few options left available. You were talking about that Skarner, and you can see a big giggle for for Peanut, but it will be the Jace locked in here for Zeus or Zeka, so still a little bit more of a flexible option.
See if they want to go for that Skarner themselves for Cuz here and what they want to pair with it. You can look for a champion that can absorb some of Jace's pressure if it's a single meta Jace where it's either top or mid, where you know that's where it's going, but it's a little bit tougher to counterpick it right now when you just don't know. Will be Rumble to come through actually here.
I like that.
It's a strong pick. See what they want to pair with it. You could even go for something like a Maokai here, which has historically done very well alongside Rumble. Gives you a lot of zoning tools. Not that great into Jace though, as the other picks are the Skarner, of course. That seems like it sticks out like a sore thumb, but BDD, he is the king of this team, and he will get his pick.
Yep, the Emperor himself has made it to LoL Park here, and there were a lot of opportunities for BDD to be picking the Azir in the LCK Cup, and he just kind of didn't do it, even though Azir was pretty popular at the time. Now they're not holding back any of these punches, it seems. Yeah, it does mean that they're going to need a lot of AD.
They certainly will. It's tricky too, because both Rumble and Azir, they can do a lot of damage. They're both AP and they can scale quite well, but they're also pretty vulnerable, and Jace will just simply outrange both of them, and his damage is going to make it very difficult if you end up hitting Shock Blast before the fights break out for Azir to engage, for example, because he will be lower health, and Rumble as well will have problems doing that damage. The Taliyah Xin Zhao lock-ins here will be pretty simple for Hanwha Life, because Taliyah pretty good into the Azir. You have the Xin Zhao, which is going to help set up a lot of great defensive engages where you can absorb a lot of that pressure, absorb a lot of that damage before the Jace really starts to hit big damage. But I do feel like when you lock in both soul laners like this for KT early, it's so easy on blue side to just round out your lineup.
Yeah, and you also get to pick away the Xin Zhao. I actually thought that was going to be what Cuz goes towards. Instead, it is going to be the Skarner, but we were talking about that AD. A lot of this game is going to rest on Doctarm. If he's not a threat, you just build magic resist and you ignore what this Rumble and Azir are doing. So it does put a little bit more back onto the shoulders of the man that's had a lot of criticism throughout the LCK Cup here for KT. Doctarm now pairing up with Peter. It's going to be a big test.
Ezreal, I think stocks are really high for both of these teams. With both the Varus and the Kalista gone, Ashe is going to be taken away. KT Rolster do have pick priority, so I think with Hanwha Life here, you're probably looking to ban the Ezreal if you're expecting that Doctarm is going to play it and you're worried about that, because there isn't a great answer right now, especially with the Ashe also banned away, so the Ezreal gets a pretty free lane down there in the bottom side. They're going to take away the Misfortune, which has been so popular here at the LCK.
I don't mind that one. Next cab off the rank is probably that Ezreal as far as priority, but they probably want to pick it on four, like you were talking about.
Could ban like a Caitlyn here if you're worried about that, kind of pushing lane.
Was nerfed a little bit on this patch. The Corki, the same thing.
Corki, yeah.
Another option that you can go towards.
I like the Leona ban, but it does kind of lean towards they're probably not going to be picking up the Ezreal themselves, since there's such a great synergy there. Maybe they're looking for a Rakan lane And this final ban is going to tell us a lot. I mean, so many AD carries are removed here.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Ezreal still feels like a strong pick for KT Rolster even without that Leona. And this is not an easy choice for Hanwha Life here.
You're really going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel as Nautilus is going to be the ban instead, getting rid of some of the engage options in these last bans for both teams. But it does mean that Ezreal is likely to be locked in, and there it goes. Viper, what is the answer?
Zeri could be an option here just because she's so mobile. You already have a lot of setup to chip away at those health bars before you go in for that ult and try to clean up the fight, especially if Jace is hitting those Shock Blast nonstop. Zeus, fantastic Jace player, and the Nautilus is removed. We haven't really seen Zeri that much really at all this season thus far, but with so many champions banned, I think it's definitely a consideration here.
Yep. Like, for some reason, Lucian Nami's in my brain. It is instead going to be Space Vane locked in, so Kai'Sa going to be picked up alongside Delight's Rakan.
Kai'Sa is super overtuned, I feel, on this patch, and is a great matchup into the Ezreal. It's not a dive comp, really, what Hanwha Life have put together, but with the Taliyah and now the Rakan locked in, it pseudo can be. So I do think this rounds out the composition quite nicely. It's not the one that stuck out in my mind. That was going to be more of a, cleanup type AD carry here, but more aggressive option does come through. The Leona ban hurting KT Rolster a little bit here now that the Rakan is locked in. They might just put Peter on the Alistar, and that is what they'll opt for.
Does mean that this lane is not going to be a whole lot of fun in the early stages. Of course, Kai'Sa Rakan, not the most powerful in itself, so might just be a bit of a wet noodle fight down there. Should get the Ezreal and the Alistar through it relatively well. A lot of very powerful picks on the side of KT, and a lot of comfort as well, especially when you see Dr. on his Ezreal and Cuz, Skarner, and then, of course, you have to mention BDD on the Azir. Perfect, pretty good at the Rumble as well. So I think coming out of the gate pretty strong on KT's side. We can liken all of these champions to Hanwha Life Esports, though, and I think most of us are looking towards that Jace in the top lane, for Zeus as the biggest problem.
I think for KT Rolster, you're probably just going to want to have a stable early game with this Ezreal. Don't try to make any aggressive plays down there. Just scale up. You have Ezreal, Azir for the late game. You can play through the Rumble a little bit, try to punish the Jace, who's trying to get that advantage against you in the top side. Maybe that's where they end up trying to get a lead. The Rumble is going to scale pretty well, too. And I think if KT can make sure they don't have any errors in the early mid-game, I think they have a really strong late-game composition here, especially because Skarner pairs so well with Rumble with the Impale. I'm worried, though, if they lose control of the map. They lose vision control. The Azir's agency drops massively. Your Rumble setups aren't going to be as good, and the Ezreal can't hit what he can't see, and Jace absolutely will.
Certainly. Let's have a look at how it does go, though, as we check out some of the skin choices on the side of both teams. Oh, some frozen Ezreal. A little bit of a shout-out to Double Lift there, who did say that it was the best skin many, many years ago. Now it is time. Jump into the Rift for Game 1. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the Rift for the first game of the day and KT's debut here in the LCK. Of course, we have seen HLE before. They didn't do so well up against Gen G, looking to cleanse the palate with a win against KT, perhaps, or really get down in the dumps if they do lose to the roller coaster themselves. So we'll just have to see how it does go. KT so far with a pretty nice draft, but draft isn't everything.
That's certainly not. It feels like a lot of comfort for KT as well. Obviously, Dr. has played some great Ezreal games in the past. Perfect played mostly Rumble during his debut. Had some rough games at the start, but did have some of his best games later on once he adjusted to the LCK a little bit on the Rumble. So it's a pick I think we all associate with him. And then obviously BDD's Azir is the one that really stands out as comfort across this lineup.
Yep. Pretty good matchup for the Taliyah, though, as we know. I think that Zeka's Taliyah has gotten better.
Absolutely.
Was one of those picks that we weren't necessarily super excited to see him on in the past, just because it wasn't called Sylas or Akali. But has more recently had some really good play on this champion. Is Peter going to be headbutting the light around? I don't think too much is going to come of this lane, at least in the early stages.
Viper getting some nice damage done there. But like you say, it's not going to be a lane where you should have kill pressure unless a mistake is made. You can see runes looking pretty standard across the board here. Grasp for Zeus in the top lane.
Yep.
And
BDD is the one interesting thing, is like you say, BDD losing out on this trade quite considerably in the mid lane. Zeka with the ability to throw a lot of these threaded volleys around. Thankfully, for BDD's sake, misses that last one.
With no lane swaps anymore, and with these two compositions not having incredible level 1 power, we just had 5-point starts in a standard jungle. They're going to path opposite directions here, though, as Cuz will go towards the bottom lane, and Peanut will head towards top. Jace putting the pressure on big time in the top lane. That's the one lane where you really do see in those early levels the Jace can actually get relevant damage done. I think that's part of why we see Peanut pathing towards the top side, so he can help shadow that lane a little bit in case Cuz was going to path the other way, go top side to try to punish.
Yep. You can see now Perfect was able to at least catch a bit of that wave, but it's still going very, very well for Zeus. We mentioned already that this is going to be the dangerous part, and that seems to be ringing true, at least for now.
Very
Peanut,
clean.
Yep, just full clearing, as is Cuz.
Yeah, it's a Jace into Rumble early game thing, but it's also a Zeus thing that we're witnessing here. Korean Jace's, he is the Korean Jace right now. We've had quite a few over the years, but I think he sits in the throne at the moment.
He does. Smeb and Khan and Marin no longer here, and so really is the kind of the Jace guy, you could say.
It's a pretty quiet early game, you know?
I would say so, yeah.
It's like even the observers are like, well, we're looking for something. That's the best we can find. Two low mana mid laners duking it out.
And the only advantage here for KT so far is Doctom being able to get the shove. They're going to go for a reset. That should mean that Viper is able to claw his way back a little bit, catching this wave. But Perfect landing a few of these harpoons. You can see that he's still able to go toe-to-toe in the lane. He just hasn't been able to hit minions the last time very effectively.
Here's that Duckdom swap, heading top lane here with Cuz, and very far up the lane is Zeus. He may be in trouble.
That harpoon missing could be a big deal, as Cuz gonna get booped back, throws the rock, gets the flash. That's what they were looking for.
They just wanted to wait for the flash there, and eventually Zeus does have to use it, but waited a very long time, handled it very well, wasn't ever going to be under any threat. But now the Ezreal, Alistair do have that tempo advantage heading towards the top side, and of course Perfect can just TP to the bottom lane to catch this wave. It's very standard these days, the later lane swap. It's just kind of a tempo advantage that KT will pick up as a result of it.
Yep. Teleport has to be invested here from Perfect, though, so that's certainly a good thing for HLE. Zeus instead just going to be wandering towards the bottom side of the map, as we will have the dragon spawning now. Grub's going to be up in a minute's time. We'll see whether any of these junglers are going to head over there and try and contest for anything. First Drake being that Hex Tech.
Look at this.
Get that one off the table.
Zeus heading towards the mid lane, looking for maybe just a drive-by shot blast to stop a back from BDD.
It doesn't really have anywhere to be on the map right now, so instead just tries to ruin KT's tempo a little bit.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. I actually really like to see moves like that. You can see based on how he was moving, he could steer this the whole time because he knows the timing of BDD's back. He knows BDD doesn't have teleport, and he knows he can't get that bottom wave because it's pushed into the turret, and he just comes up and makes one small little tempo move like that. You love to see it.
Yep, definitely better than doing nothing. Absolutely. Right now, though, it's not really going to affect the gold or anything like that. You can see things very, very even between our mid laners. As Delight and Peanut moving up towards the KT bottom lane that are now on the top side of the map. Viper holding these minions, looking to get a bit of a pseudo freeze here. As finally, that last one is going to be taken. Peanut starts the grubs off as they spawn, but Cuz is going to be moving over here.
Zeus does have teleport, and of course Perfect does not. I don't know if he has any intention of joining this, but if they need his help and they want to fight for this, he absolutely can be there at a moment's notice.
Yep, and level 6s picked up by both of our mid laners as well. First grub does go down. Peanut should be able to grab the second one pretty comfortably as Delight's going to move over. There's the flash out as Peanut makes his way in the Weaver's Wall. Does deliver Zeka to the area. Flash out from Peter as well as the seismic shove has to be avoided with a headbutt. And so Peter knows that he is just going to go down. That's first blood going over to Viper of all people. HLE off to a great start. They should even be able to grab this last grub.
Yeah, just sticking around a bit too long there. Peter sacrifices himself. I think the right decision there to make sure that everyone else gets out, but will still be this grub going over to Hanwha Life Esports, and a bit of a rocky one there for KT. Perfect was rotating up, as you guys could see on the minimap when you watch this replay, but without teleport, he was never going to be here. And KT against this Talia and BDD not having prio meant that this was just not a winnable fight. Unfortunately, Peter just giving himself away, and that will be the end of that. So 3 grubs to Hanwha Life, plus a kill.
Yep, really nicely done. I think the rocks went down a little bit early there because I thought Peter could have headbutted his way out.
Yeah.
Might have had a few cooldown issues. As he's just going to get on in here. Zeus in a bit of trouble. He's burning down. But the rest of HLE, they turn up immediately, and it's a double kill for Viper. So all of a sudden, they've got the feats of warfare and like a killing spree for their main carry.
Yeah, this is a disaster for KT Rolster. And they wanted to make a proactive play onto Zeus, and yes, he does die, but he has teleport, so he can go straight back to the top lane. This puts Viper back in the lane he wants to be. Now he has 3 kills, and KT Rolster really just not realizing that the Kai'Sa was heading back towards the bottom lane, I guess. I mean, they had a lot of vision topside. They had a ton of wards up there. Hanwha Life did. They were like, all right, this is our moment. This is our angle. We're going to trap them here. They probably didn't necessarily expect they were going to full commit, but because they did, they get those kills. They get the dragon as well, plus the grubs.
Well, there's a double pulverize here from Peter, because if at first you don't succeed, you just go for it again. Cuz drives in, misses to light on that one, and they look for Peanut. They are going to be able to pick him up there with the Impale. BDD comes in, the Sand Soldiers get the work done. And they are at least making some plays to try and get back. That's the proactivity that I think KT have been missing throughout the LCK Cup. As we check this one out one more time, look at this. The cavalry just immediately arrive.
Yeah, Delight hitting the big knock up there with the flash. And then here, Peter, he wants to keep going in, gets a double knock up himself. And unfortunately, there's no getting out here. Cuz is going to be able to follow. The Impale, we've seen a lot of them miss in 2025 here at Lowell Park, but not this one. And that will be Peanut dragged back across the line. So they do get that kill, especially important that it goes to BDD. But so many problems here elsewise around the map, particularly that really fed Kai'Sa, who already has a Static Shiv online, or not Static Shiv.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Static Shiv. I was like, wait, that item was removed. Oh yeah, no, they re-edited it.
Yeah, it's back. She's back. We have seen a bunch of different items. I'm very happy that we're not seeing the aiming special with the Yuntal Kai'Sa yet again, even though, based on a 2% sample size, it is the highest win rate Kai'Sa build. I will stand by that, but it just...
It's too early for me to feel strongly about it, you know?
Yeah, with the Jace on the roster as well, alongside the Xin Zhao, they didn't need that much extra AD, and so I think you're okay with just going for the regular sort of AP-flavored build out of the Kai'Sa. Zeka and Perfect facing off here towards the bottom side as Seismic Shove is going to go a little wide.
Yeah, Perfect went plated steel caps, so Huni's upset.
Oh no.
And he didn't really
He doesn't have Ignite either, so it's all doomed.
Didn't really get a whole lot out of those steel caps now that he's laning against the Talia as well. Probably not feeling too great about it.
All right, BDD getting a bit of damage onto Viper.
Part of the
worry about
value of the Static Shiv too in matchups like this one is you can hold your own even to a mid laner as a bit of a shove comes through. But also you're going to be able to push into that Ezreal later on even harder in the mid lane. With the advantages he is going to feel really good about his farming and getting prio in the mid lane for these upcoming objectives. So it feels like a win more right now for Viper.
Yeah. Dr. Wind does not become lightning towards the Ezreal. And the Grub's going to be up in 15 seconds time. That's why we're all grouped around this area. As Perfect and Zeka just continuing to hold on to teleports and stand in the bottom lane, as is the way.
Grub spawning, Hanwha Life. Could grab 6 here if Cuz isn't able to take a single one. He does have Smite, has a little bit of backup.
They want to try and deny these if they can, or at least try and find a team fight. Peanut going to be able to grab the first one. That is Void Might's activated here for HLE.
Yeah, now that Peanut's used this Smite, Cuz should be able to get at least one.
Yeah. And HLE can just run away if they'd like to. There's no need to fight for this unless they'd really fancy themselves in that fight. Perfect taking a lot of damage. Zeka is just, toying with him here on the bottom side of the map. Cuz should be able to grab this, and he doesn't. It's Peanut, picks that one up for himself. That is going to be 5 grubs over to HLE.
Bit of an early Smite there. Peanut's happy to take the late one himself and secure that one. So a bit of an error there. It's Cuz saved his Smite, but wasn't able to secure it. And that's just a free win for Hanwha Life. 5 grubs to 1. They have the Dragon lead as well. Dukdom looking to stop some backs. That's a very small victory.
Yeah, there we go. There's something.
Yeah. BDD went for Nashor's Tooth first, which if he can get control of a side will offer some pressure for sure, but he doesn't have teleport right now. His next Dragon is up in 1 minute's time, and I think that, you know, when we're looking at the Ezreal, who doesn't even have his first item just yet, versus a Kai'Sa that's pretty accelerated, 1,000 gold to lead here. Zeus has TP. you know, KT, if they want to fight for this, they're really going to have to do some vision setup, and they are going to have to kind of prep their way into this dragon. Even BDD doesn't have control of that side lane.
Not quite yet. There is only 1,000 gold in it at this point in time. I think if KT are able to get themselves a Drake, they're in fine standing, heading towards a late game with a Skarner, a Zir, and Ezreal. I think you're feeling pretty good about that one.
Yeah, that's, you know, the kind of name of the game for KT is to get to that late game without too much of an incident. It's definitely not the early game they were looking for.
Incident detection, that's what we need. No incidents, please, KT. I know there's a new Final Destination movie, you know.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I saw it advertised. I was very confused.
When I was younger, I really loved those movies. When I got older, I was like, it's time for the Final Destination. Then they said it was the final one. Apparently not.
I mean, all of them are, aren't they? Because it's all Final Destination. But obviously, there seems to be more destinations built afterwards. It's all very confusing. But is it the first one that has the roller coaster? That's why I always liken it to KT every time.
I think the first
watching KT is terrifying.
First one's a plane, right? The second one's the highway. I think the third one was the roller coaster.
Ah, was it the third one?
I think so. Or maybe the third one was a racetrack. I don't know.
My goodness. I think the next one's like a barbecue, like the new one. It's really weird. Anyway. Viper is in the mid lane. Doctom is there matching him as best he can. Peter is a cow. And is just going to have to watch as his control ward does fall down. Banana Brush control ceded over to HLE. And Peanut just seems to be starting any objective he would like. Doctom goes back, gets himself a Trinity Force, but unfortunately he's not going to be there for this. And of course, a singular Ocean Drake does not mean too much, but you're a very long way away from a soul, and that is going to be just the secure for Peanut.
If BDD was the one in the top lane right now for KT, you'd be like, well, at least maybe we'll get some pressure down there. Maybe we'll get some damage to the turret. But it's just a Rumble that's sitting on haunting guys right now and is just going to back and isn't going to get anything done there. Perfect could have teleported in, but I think they do. It was a lost cause. And it's just another objective. Going over to Hanwha Life Esports, it will be Chemtech Soul, so you know, it's not the greatest feeling for a 2-Drake lead, but when you've kind of got everything else in your pocket as well, you're happy to take the advantage. You got the, you know, solo Ocean Drake, which is going to be useful as well in general as a, you know, just an elemental Drake in itself.
Yep.
Feats of strength are theirs. And, I mean, for KT, this is not the end of the world just yet. You know, they haven't lost a major team fight. They haven't given over that 2,500, 3,000 gold lead where it's just too hard for Doctom to get back into this game, for BDD to carry later on. But we're one incident, as I've dubbed it weirdly today, away from that.
Yeah, the problem for me is that KT are not really playing with very much confidence, right? Like, we mentioned it when Peanut was on the Drake for the first sort of instance, and it was KT not really being able to do anything. Right now, it's a defensive equalizer as well. Let's see whether Zeka is going to be okay, and it looks like the answer is he will be. And so KT, I mean, they're making defensive plays, but you really do need to start bringing it to HLE as well, and not just relying on this potential we're scaling type situation. As Seismic Shove on to Peter. Does have the Unbreakable Will. He's going to be okay, but still loses 50% of his health bar.
Yeah, luckily didn't have to pop it there, so he's going to be okay with how things turned out. We'll just be able to back and get full health. I think, like you're saying, they need to do something, but one dragon would be enough in most scenarios. You know, that buys you a bunch of time. Because it's Chemtech Soul, you could be like, okay, well, they have 2 dragons. This is bad, but it's Chemtech Soul. Maybe we could just let the third one go, fight later. But they're giving up Herald. The top turret is basically dead. Bottom turret's taking some significant damage. And Hanwha Life are going to take more than just a small gold lead. If this continues, they're going to start taking map control.
But are they going to give up this Herald? As right now, they're looking for a pincer maneuver. Viper shows himself, though, and he does a lot of damage. As Doctom trying to offer what he can. Peanut throws down the ulti very early on here. They once again find themselves milling about, and the objective goes down. And now Zeus throws out the Shock Blast. Seismic Shove going to need to be avoided with a flash. And now Cuz won't have access to that. No flash impales or anything to come out of this Skarner for the next little while.
Oof. Well, they just didn't have any setup there. They teleported perfect in, and Zeus has the teleport to match, so they don't get a numbers advantage. BDD is not set up to either poke or chip away or look for an ultimate, so just doesn't end up doing anything, unfortunately. And even though they didn't give it up, sort of, they basically ultimately did. And now BDD is in big danger.
He is. Seismic Shove is going to be avoided. The Emperor's Divide comes out, but doesn't hit anyone, and Viper is extremely fed. Rift Herald coming into the mid lane here as well as Peter looks for the trample. Zeus in a little bit of trouble here, and he will be going down. Doctom getting his first kill of the game.
A little bit overzealous there from HLE, I would say. Perfect's also going to get this bottom turret, but they still got to charge, and they will get that mid turret soon. They're putting a ton of damage onto this top inner as well, so lots of value here for Hanwha Life Esports. I don't think Zeus should have necessarily died there, but I don't think they feel too bad when they're going to grab this inner.
Well, at least Cuz is pretty tanky. He does throw Delight into the wall. Viper getting hit around, and that's going to stop him from just destroying this Scorpion. Still, the inner turret falls down, and that is about a 2,000 gold lead still. So a net neutral, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, BDD here just shoves a bit too early. Delight's second fantastic play of the game. Zeus gets punished, but I mean, look at this. The charge does come through. So this turret is all but dead. So it's almost a 1 for 3 turrets. Top turret goes down, the bottom turret goes down for KT, but the mid turret is just a sneeze away from falling over, and they got the inner.
Well, here is the Weaver's Wall. Doctom doesn't have a lot of mana, but he has enough to Arcane Shift and then does have to flash to avoid the Seismic Shove.
Fantastic placement on that shove from Zeka as well.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
This guy's Talia has gotten very, very good.
It's like, I still, even though I've watched Zeka win a world championship and then win multiple titles and win multiple big game 5s, and he's the super soldier, I'm still like, can he play Talia? Are we sure? Because of the bad memories we had in the early days, but you just have to trust this guy now.
XT's going to start winning on Corki consistently, and we're going to be really confused.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He's a well-rounded, insanely talented mid laner, one of our best.
Yep, it's absolutely the case, as the Mega Blast Cone going to get a flash, as Peter is able to force that one out of Peanut. Nicely done. Having Peter and Peanut in the same game is kind of frustrating.
Yes.
Because they sound really similar. Speaking of Peanut, he's going to get pulverized by Peter. He looked for a little bit of an engage here. As you can see, Perfect does still have the equalizer. They are in a choke point. Press the equalizer. There it is. Emperor's Divide onto 2 and KT. They found a proactive play, but BDD is in the ground, and the Impale goes entirely wide. Viper now in the driver's seat as Doctom gets behind the rest of his team, and HLE, they do manage to find an extra kill in the exchange.
I feel like there were so many moments to equalize there, which would have given them a better opportunity, but they wanted to wait for a big combo with BDD, but they waited so long that by the time that combo went down, and even though the play was heroic, so much work had been done from Hanwha Life, and Viper can follow up so easily. Sitting on 2 items, that's going to be their third and sole point dragon here for Hanwha Life. They win the play, they get another turret, and Perfect, watch this whole time. While Hanwha Life stack up here in this choke point just to the right of this tri-brush, there's so many different angles for him to equalize here, and they have vision because Peter's standing on top of these players. Peanut does have his ult out, and there were so many angles. They could have also looked for a better true shot barrage there, but finally BDD goes in. They get the kill after the ult is down for Peanut, but Viper can just easily come in here and clean up house. And there's no damage, there's no focus on this Kai'Sa, and he just rips them to shreds.
If that Impale had landed,
different story.
Yeah, KT, I think, win the team fight. But unfortunately, Cuz just barely unable to get it. Not end of the world or anything like that. It is still HLE getting incremental, small advantages. They're trading up in a lot of these instances, right? As Cuz going to make his way in, looking for Zeka here as the Weaver's Wall. Just going to get him out, and he'll be fine. Even able to grab himself a bloody pedal on his way through. As Peter going for some more plays. Peter and Peanut fighting once again, frustratingly enough, as the Flame Spitter will burn him down. Doctom with a cheeky Mystic Shot to steal the kill away from the rest of his teammates. Seismic Shove going to throw the Scorpion around, but Cuz is getting tankier and tankier.
Pretty inopportune moment to die for a Scuttle Crab.
Oh, this would be a way for KT to lose the game, and that is going for an Otacon that they have no right to go for, but the rest of HLE are just looking to destroy structures.
Yeah, I think
so. It will be the Otacon going down.
Yeah, the Otacon does go over, and a lot of petals are going to go over. They
Look
don't
at
have
this farming.
They don't have too many objectives to get buffed with this Otacon, sitting on no dragons, but This play here from Peanut with not a whole lot of vision in the jungle is very greedy, and they do have a very fast punish. I like how, though, instantly you see the pings in the mid lane. Hanwha Life are like, all right, they're going to go Otacon. Let's push up mid. Let's get a turret at least. Jace is pushing top. Zeus all-ins on that, so they have 2 lanes worth of control. So they give the Otacon, but it's not for free. Blood Petal stacks 41 here to 15. That's going to be a lot of extra experience and some additional damage that KT pick up, but that alone is not going to be enough to get them back into the game. Will feel nice, though, if they can get that Azir to that late game scaling. He's sitting on nearly that second item now. Ezreal's hit 2 items, so KT finally might be able to make some waves in this game, especially if Peanut gives another donation like the one we just saw.
Yeah, I mean, the team fight is absolutely terrifying, right? If KT can get to it. Speaking of which, Peanut considering a donation once again. True Shot Barrage sails over. The ultimate gonna have to be invested here by Peanut and the rest of KT. They think that's an invitation to get on in there.
I mean, you're Xin Zhao. You have an ultimate, but you don't always want to be using it on cooldown to survive.
Yeah. Hey, if you keep it on cooldown, though, that is that's high efficiency.
Yeah, it's 100% ult uptime.
Oh, yeah.
They are going to lose, it looks like, this mid turret here. Good zoning by KT. It's going to be a teleport from Zeus to try to save it.
Well, Weaver's Wall going to come in here from Zeka. That's going to split up the fight momentarily, but Perfect will be able to join the rest of his team. Another P name, really? Didn't even think about it. That is also a bit frustrating. Okay. He is going to move himself back. Void Seeker going to find a little bit, but it's just a Sun Disc being erected.
It's several small wins for KT Rolster in a row, though. Again, when you look at just the gold lead, you know, it's quite substantial. It's 4,000, nearly 5,000 the lead here for Hanwha Life, but Azir getting relevant, right? The Ezreal becoming relevant as well. And one big team fight win for KT Rolster is all they need to grab control of this game. So Hanwha Life playing very deep for a lot of vision control, and it's backfiring. Maybe a little bit more subtle would be the way. They have a ton of vision control over the Dragon Pit right now, where they're looking to secure Soul and spawn that Elder.
Viper has 3 items, Wolf.
He does. He is quite big. He also has additional poke with this Nashor's Tooth that will help him and Zeus chip away at KT Rolster before these fights start. They have tons of prio for this dragon. Still 50 seconds away from it, but it almost feels like KT is going to have to make something crazy happen to wrestle this one away, because they just have no control of mid or bottom right now, and top is also getting pushed in. They have teleports here. Nobody's even dealing with that top wave just yet. Nope. There's no way to flank with BDD on this Azir to catch people set up in a divide. Speaking of flanking, Delight is on one.
Let's see what can happen here, because he's joined by Zeka as well. Weaver's Wall at the ready. Let's see what they do decide to go for. As Doctom, I think, took a Void Seeker, and that's why he's lost most of his health bar. It's kind of ridiculous how much damage that is doing right now. Shock Blast as well, no slouches.
There's the poke. I mean, half his health is gone now. Yep. And good luck with this fight. At least he's got some fruit.
Oh, yeah, it's the amped up honey fruit there as well. So let's see what they can actually do. That Shock Blast missing, kind of a big deal. The Void Seeker as well. Maybe now it's time to go for something as Peter, you know he wants to press that Headbutt Pulverize. He's got the flash as well. The KT, they're biding their time. It's only Doctom that gets hit by another skill shot.
I mean, they just keep focusing him specifically, and these shots keep landing. Great accuracy.
Oh, Seismic Shove connects onto Cuz, but he's very tanky. Durability is high as they are sweeping this out. They know where Peter is. Some of these Mystic Shots now starting to land as True Shot Barrage picks the gap.
BDD buying right now. We'll come back with the teleport, but I mean, this is already so much damage done.
And I don't think they can give away Soul, right?
I don't think so.
Teleport is going to be towards this bottom lane.
So far away.
Rest of KT now in position to go for something. Weaver's Wall just to break this one up, Cuz not electing to go over it, but he can just move in if he wants to. It's going to be the steal from Cuz. And Peanut down pretty low now as well. Has to use another ultimate right at the last second. And is looking to possibly get out of the way as Cuz flashes in, misses another ulti, and Perfect says, my flamethrower requires no aiming. And in fact, KT, they require no aiming either. They got Doctom now. He's able to help grab another kill. And KT, that is their first actual team fight win.
Yeah, they're fishing for more. I don't think they'll be able to get any more champion kills here, but they should be able to start up this Baron. Peanut, no ultimate here, and is so low on health. Peter could just block him from entry, and they have so much damage here. Delight alone isn't going to be able to get it done. This should just be Baron for KT. That's the one team fight I was talking about. KT just need one fight, one moment. They can get right back into this game, and they got it. So many tools used for Hanwha Life to deny entry for KT. They played it so slow. They just sat on their poke. They put up the Weaver's Wall, but still Cuz is able to get into smite range. Peanut's not able to secure. And then because of all those tools being utilized to try to keep KT at bay, especially this Weaver's Wall, the follow-up here is just so simple. So smite goes down first. Now the rocks are down as well, so you can just follow up so easily here. And Peanut, because he was the one that had to hold on to that dragon, gets extremely low. Zeka also just going straight into the last death knells of that turret. The Azir turret, the Sundisk in the mid lane, takes so much damage. They get those two and turn it straight into a Baron. If Peanut hits that smite, it might not have changed the outcome of the upcoming fight, but at least it would have given them soul. But now they get no soul. Baron goes over, and KT are now only 2,000 gold behind with these extremely scaling champions.
Not to mention the fact that they have so many turrets to take down. KT, that was a game-winning play. Of course, it's KT, so every game is throwable, and we'll see whether that is what's going to happen. But right now, it feels like KT have paid their dues, right? Like, this is a composition that has reached scaling. And we've got another mask now completed for BDD, looking to go for his third item. We'll see when the Azir does manage to hit that, because that is going to be a very, very scary pigeon. Cuz avoiding some of these seismic shoves, but he is almost unkillable at this point in time.
This is a really nice lane setup here. Top lane's pushed so hard, so they're just going 2 in mid, 3 on the bottom lane. BDD rips through turrets with this build so easily and can use the Sundisk as a bit of a bastion. He can fall back to with Cuz, who's so tanky and has Impale. Just no way to collapse onto BDD. They push hard in the bottom lane. Duckdom's poke is really starting to hit. I mean, he's on 3 items now.
Yeah, Weaver's Wall. They are looking for perfect here as the seismic shove goes wide. Peter has found Peanut once again, though, as Cuz making his way and finds a rock onto Viper. Zeka is incredibly low as Duckdom's looking for him into the backline, goes to Light. He's almost just dead. It's a beautiful arcane shift, though. Duckdom will get audaciously charged, does go down, but the Emperor is here and has done some division. It's just not quite enough, but they've taken down the Kai'Sa. BDD trying to kite, but he gets stunned up and will be taken down. Zeka manages to complete the ace.
Incredible turnaround here for Hanwha Life, and a lot of that on the back of Viper, who ults in, uses supercharger, stays alive, does a massive amount of damage. They are able to take out the Ezreal. Duckdom goes down, and Hanwha Life just said, no, you guys did not take the lead. You did not take the advantage. This is my game to lose. It was my game to lose. And with this ace, I mean, they could just go straight into the base.
Is it? No, it's not game, right?
It's not quite game. Perfect will have his ultimate, so he can clear a wave. They only have this top wave to play through, but they can just get this inhibitor and be very happy with denying the Baron. So watching this all play out, it's super aggressive the way that Hanwha Life move forward here, and it looks like the collapse is just going to crush them, but BDD is so late to arrive to this fight. Zeka survives so narrowly here. If he dies, this fight looks completely different. And to watch Viper...
Oh, another Impale missing as well. It's a big deal.
The Impale whiff was massive. Viper goes in, basically solos Duckdom, has the supercharger, has the Zhonya's as well, stays alive for so long for Zeka to keep weaving this damage in the entire time. And then it's just a numbers game that KT cannot win. Oh man, he's super upset with how it went down, and
I think they're still kind of having a good time though, because this is a very intense game, yes, but right now still winnable on either side. KT have managed to respawn. Yes, they don't have an inhibitor in their top lane. That could be a bit of a problem, but top lane inhibitor when you are going to be fighting around a Baron in the next couple of minutes, it's not something that you're going to be too worried about. Yeah, this next dragon going to be a big deal. KT right now with a bunch of control, but you can see the southern side of the pit, HLE are grouping up, and Zeka can get there in a moment's notice.
Teleporting back in, full health here. Sundisk buying them a lot of that mid space. Really challenging here for Hanwha Life to break through. They also just don't have a lot of vision. That Scuttlecrab doing work for them for these shock blasts for Zeus to aim. And they also have Delight on the flank.
Yeah. Delight is certainly the man to watch out for. His Rakan has been fantastic just in history, but also in this game. As Peter with a Mega Blast going looking for an angle. They do get on top of Peanut. As the Impale comes on through, it is going to be the soul lockdown for Peanut, finally finding himself a smite. As now Viper gets flashed on, immediately goes into that Zhonya's, but now he's out of position. The Pulverize is good. It is the mid laner going down for KT, but the rest of the team is fighting well. Flash comes out from Cuz, and Zeka is now the carry that HLE are going to be relying on. That and Zeus who is raining these shock blasts down. Meanwhile, KT's base is also exploding. Another Zhonya is going to be utilized, this time by Perfect, who wants to try and kill Zeka, but it's not going to work. And HLE find themselves another fight and a soul off the back of it, as Doctom and Cuz licking their wounds, trying to keep their base alive.
Yeah, the top wave will naturally push, and they'll just demolish this turret instantly here. BDD up in 20. I don't think Hanwha Life are looking for the end here, but they have so much control from this. They have the soul, and it was a really sloppy fight from KT Rolster. BDD gets the trade kill, but he's not able to do the damage I think he's really looking to do in this fight. It looks like initially Peanuts made a huge error here by stepping forward, but they have such a fantastic follow-up here when he gets engaged on. Zeka doesn't actually get into the fight, so he's still safe, and then Delight's re-engage is fantastic. Viper follows up, and they're just trying to delete Doctom. Sure, Perfect goes in on him, but he has his own. His BDD goes down, so that damage is gone. You don't have Doctom able to do this on his own anymore. He's zoned away, and then it's just super split up from here. Doctom, I think, if he had gone in there and tried to look to weave some damage in, maybe they could have turned it, but he was a bit cowardly, I would say, about how he played that one out, and so this kind of eventually got split and taken down. A big story of that fight was what happened after the replay there, where Perfect is cut off, and KT now grouped back up.
Well, a Baron is now on the cards as Doctom taking some more skill shots, as we can see. Peanut, though, goes in, gets on top of the Ezreal. Arcane Shift gets him out of there. The Weaver's Wall not quite doing enough here for HLE right now. Seismic Shove is good onto BDD, though, as Zeka has to flash to get out of the way of this equalizer. BDD's burning, and he does go down. Now, Viper getting into the backline. I don't know about this one, but he's still able to get these autos off. Supercharger to make sure he's in the right position, Cuz he's going to get eviscerated. And KT, that was their last breath, as HLE will now push in for the win.
Oh, BDD is not happy. They had such a good angle in this game. It all went wrong in the bottom lane, and Hanwha Life took it back. Viper with an incredible Kai'Sa game.
Oh, yeah. Got fed early, and it looked like KT had found an angle. And obviously, they didn't, because the Nexus goes down. HLE now on the board with their first win of LCK 2025.
It wasn't the cleanest, but the team fighting for Hanwha Life Esports shone through in the end. Some of the big reasons why KT got back into this game were some overextensions from Peanut, some very weird setups around Dragon. But ultimately, when it came down to the team fights that mattered most, Viper was ready to carry. Zeus always where he needed to be to follow up on the damage. And I loved the Zhonya's buy for Viper. He got so much value out of it, and he was just absolutely popping off in these fights. It's not just the Kai'Sa who presses R and kills someone and then dies. He was in there supercharging, layering in tons of damage. Kai'Sa's in such a good spot right now, and when he's set up for this much success that early in the game, Viper's the kind of guy who's going to deliver.
Yeah, and he absolutely did. I did feel like KT gave it a little bit more than I was expecting. Got a little bit hyped as the Baron went down. Obviously, it's KT, so not expected to win afterwards, but there was signs of life, and more signs of life than what we saw in the LCK Cup. So I guess KT fans, you don't need to be feeling completely down in the dumps after this one. This was at least competitive, and they have a game 2 now to try and do a little bit better. As, yeah, you can see a lot of damage done here by Viper. Doctom still is a bit of an enigma for me. Wasn't having the greatest performance on the Ezreal, but maybe now, with some different champions perhaps, it's going to be a different story when we get to game number 2. Copium, not entirely sure. Let's dive into a bit of a break. When we get back, the Space is going to break that one down, and then we'll have game number 2. See you then.
하거든.
야, 지금부터 슬슬 가볼게. 야, 지금부터 슬슬 싸울 생각 갈게.
스카너 같은 데 봐도 돼.
아, 나
볼게,
이제 볼게, 이제 볼게, 이제 볼게.
이제 봐, 알리만 때릴게.
야, 이제 캐피. 야,
스카너
비전 없는 거야, 이제 비전 없는 거.
알리 먼저 때려봐, 알리 먼저. 알리 높을.
알리 높을.
한번 빼고, 알리 콩값 빠졌다. 나 아직은 더 줄래요?
아웃 시간 가자, 가자, 가자.
야, 위에 탈출 좀 와줘.
가자, 가자.
이제 높을.
카이사 맞아, 카이사. 하나도 없어요.
잠깐만 간다. 오케이.
이제 높을. 알리도 높을.
Certainly, some things have been removed. That being said, they are on the blue side now, so the Yone ban that they went for last time around not going to be as necessary. Varus going to be opted in for here. We've seen Varus really creeping up when it comes to the ban list. First ban priority throughout a lot of our games so far here in the LCK season. But we'll see what else is going to be taken away. I think things like Gwen and Fury still going to be hitting the bench.
I think Gwen could even just go in this first spot.
I would agree.
On red side. I mean, Zayas, I'm sure, has his own answers prepared. They will once again remove the Vi, so that's taken away from Cuz. And
ooh, this does mean that with the Vi banned away, Yone's going to be banned on blue. That is interesting.
that's surprising to me.
I thought the BDD would be happy to try and take that one away. But I guess with so many first pick priority champions like the Gwen, like the Neferi, especially with the Vi band, especially with the Rumble no longer being available, the Gwen stocks go up, the Neferi stocks go up. And what is HLE going to be banning away now? Of course, Peanut was the one that played Neferi first. Didn't go quite that well.
Yeah, I think my personal take is I think the Fury is a little bit overhyped. I still think has a great place, and with the right composition is incredibly strong, especially if you get ahead. But we just haven't seen our players fully utilize it just yet. But it will be banned here. I think that's a safe call. And you still have that third ban to ban the Gwen away so that KT can't first pick it. Now, if KT banned Gwen here, they've got other ideas. Picks like the Ashe, the Kalista are still available in the AD carry role. I actually do like this Sejuani ban. It's one of Peanut's best. Jack's quite strong.
Yep.
Can work really well with it. The Yone is banned, though, so banning Yone and Sejuani on blue side does feel a little bit expensive in terms of tossing those out there, both of them at the same time.
Well, it looks like it's probably going to have to be a Gwen ban.
I think so. And that could open up Duckdom playing Kalista, but like I said, I don't necessarily trust Duckdom on these strong bottom lane picks where you're supposed to win the lane, and maybe Hanwha Life Esports don't either, so they're happy to give it over. We'll ban Corki and leave it to be a trade. Now, if you take Gwen and Viper gets Kalista, Viper's a guy you could trust, and so it's going to be a big trade-off here. That is going to be the Gwen to come through. Will they just insta-lock the Kalista in response?
I imagine Kalista something is going to be in order. It might just need to be Kalista Renata because the answering Ashe Renata from KT is certainly strong.
And then you basically say, I have Renata, you can't even Draven into this. It's a very easy call, I think, here. And now things get very tricky. You ban the Varus, so you can't outrange the Kalista here. Ashe into Kalista is a historic counter, but it isn't the kind of game state. We're not living in the kind of meta where that just feels like a great pick. Can help you stave off the pressure, but isn't going to outright win you the lane. If they go like Ashe Poppy, you know, there's maybe an angle, but
doesn't feel great.
It doesn't
in the lane.
feel great. It really doesn't.
Well, still going to be an Ashe something. So what Peter is going to go for is the big question. Nico, an opportunity. You know, some of these lanes that can go toe-to-toe with the Renata that we've seen cropping up here and there.
Could be an option. But they will,
as the Nico.
I feel like the Braum is just so rough into Kalista. The Nico's way better. It does, you know, strike you as a bit of a weaker pick, though, if you fall behind, because she's just so squishy. It's hard to control vision. You've got some opportunities with clones and stuff like that, but
I do like it. Peter was going for plays in game one, right? And Nico is one of these champions that can definitely make those big pop blossom plays. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that one's going to work. That is terrifying. Silas going to be locked in here for Zeka. It is blind, but there's already Needlework and Pop Blossom and the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. That is a lot of good R buttons that he can pick up.
We don't have any junglers locked in just yet. Obviously, the Xin Zhao and the Skarner are gone, two of our top picks right now. Neferi also banned away, but picks like the Maokai are still available. Sejuani is also gone. Sejuani would pair with a lot of the picks that are left available. Poppy is... the not as commonly played in the jungle these days, but still incredibly strong into what Hanwha Life have, so I like that ban.
Yeah, it's an interesting
And
one.
Nico is technically flexible,
Yeah.
so it could be Poppy support, could have still been the thing. But again, you and I were already mentioning we didn't really like it that much in the bottom lane in this scenario into the Renata.
I do find it very curious that the Poppy was still banded away. I think the Maokai was a necessary ban.
Yeah, that one makes
because
a lot more
Cuz
sense.
can't really play it because you're then giving Nature's Grasp to Silas. You don't really want to do that. And Peanut is pretty good at Maokai. So that one is understandable. Shadow Isles bans here, as we do have Gwen versus Calista already. Last ban here from HLE. And it is going to be Viego, Cuz very good at that champion.
This situation here for Hanwha Life, when you just look at the 6 champions locked in, there's a lot of potential with what KT have, right? Gwen's obviously super strong. Ashe can help set up engages. Nico can follow up on that, can do well in the lane, but it feels so much more conditional and so much more situational. Hanwha Life got the tried and true strongest bottom lane in the meta. They have Zeka on one of his most iconic picks, and that makes everything else that you do so much scarier because now, you know, if you're looking to pick Jax here as Zeus, you can do that because if they pick, you know, if they try to pick into that, you're like, well, I've got the Silas to steal ults. And like, he could also play the Gnar himself and just try to outrange this Gwen in the top lane. That's been something we've seen in the past. I feel like there's so many options here for Hanwha and for KT. It feels like you're a little bit limited.
Ooh.
I did not expect the Wukong.
One of Peanut's old favorites, of course. Does give them a lot of Wombo combo, as the Cyclone's going to be very, very helpful. Does mean that they are exclusively short range at this point in time. The last pick for Zeus does make a lot of sense, but KT, how are we going to round this one out? Because I think playing for a lot more range and pick really could help them if they want to be able to contest for the neutral in this game. Already the Ashe is displaying a lot of extra range over his counterpart, as that is going to be the Nidalee.
I feel like they have to play Tristana here now. Like, Corki's banned. You need a strong AD pick in the mid lane. You've got so much AP damage, and it gives you really strong sides with Gwen and Tristana if you can get control of the game.
This is a lot of magic damage. I don't. The Nidalee really kind of in an awkward spot.
Yeah, that threw me for a loop. I feel like it's got to be Tristana, right?
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Or like Lucian mid.
He would have liked to play Corki, but that's not happening.
Yeah.
All right, BDD, where are we going? What is the master stroke? And it's Trist, like you were saying.
It makes a lot of sense for their comp and the power that it has in sides. Team fighting a little bit
The
wonky.
Ambessa R5, Wolf.
This can be quite tricky to pilot into the Gwen with the kind of rework of the Gwen where she's a lot stronger early. I do feel like it's going to take a lot of finesse, but if piloted correctly, you use your shield at the right time and you dash into the circle, you've got a lot of ways to outplay the Gwen, and Zeus is obviously the more experienced top laner and has the more accolades, and most are calling him right now the greatest top laner of all time. And for KT, I don't know how this comp works in team fights. I know how it works in sides, and how it works for objectives. Peter can set something up, you know, Ashe can help lead into setting something up, and then the spears come through, but on the other side of things, it's pretty easy how Hanwha fight this one out. They've got a Calista, they've got great setup, they've got an Ambessa to get into the back line, and team fighting was a big issue for KT in the last game, and honestly, throughout LCK Cup, so I do like the Tristana. I like what KT rounded this draft out with, but they put themselves in such a situation where now they have good sides, but not good 5v5, and on the other side, Hanwha kind of have everything.
Yeah, Hanwha have everything except for range, but I guess that doesn't really matter when there's no real ability to stand toe-to-toe if the engage ever comes in. Because KT just kind of goes squish as soon as anyone kind of decides that they want to kill them. There's only one Buster Shot available here for BDD, and it's going to need to be used absolutely fantastically. These Pop Blossoms need to be perfect. Let's dive into the Rift for Game 2. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We're on to the Rift for the second game of the series. And if I was a KT fan, I would be nervous. But I guess that is just the general
state comfort zone
of KT fans. So it's business as usual, guys. Cuz also with Headhunter Nidalee, one of my personal favorites. It's an old skin, but it's a good one. There are a lot of good Nidalee skins, though, to be perfectly honest. Zeus, oh, tagged with the first spear, cuz he couldn't hit an impale, but he's 100% hit rate on the spears. Second one, absolutely nailed. Look at that.
2 for 2. That's also going to make this level 1 a little bit more annoying for Zeus to play out. It shouldn't be too impactful, but it is a great feeling to start off that way.
It's a bit of a worry, though, isn't it? Because a lot of the power budget from KT has been put into Perfect.
Yeah.
Who's been having an up and down year so far. Of course, the LCK Cup wasn't exactly his best tournament ever. And I think there have been a lot of believers in Perfect, but I don't know whether he's really hit it so far this year.
It's
necessarily.
just, you don't know what Perfect you're going to get.
Yeah.
And with certain champions, you know he has high highs on them, like the Rumble, for example, but we didn't see that in Game 1. He missed a lot of the big equalizers, was a little slow on some of the other ones. And again, Ambessa can outplay the Gwen if played incredibly well. It's very tricky, but I mean, it's Zeus, so you might find a way if you make a mistake. Here's the heal tempos.
You can see Delight throws that one in. Peter is going to answer as the handshake does go wide. Level 2 gained the nick of time by HLE, and they play around it very nicely. Still KT, not looking that worse for wear. And it was an even trade when it comes to the summoner spells. The problem is, I mean, Viper has so much more control of this early game now on this Kalista instead of the Kai'Sa that I don't know whether it gets better anytime soon as, oh my goodness, okay, some biffo happening here towards the top side. Snip, snip goes perfect and gets a bunch of health back, gets that level up to level 3. Is now Zeka going in, but doesn't get the chains, and BDD throwing out a few more of these bullets.
Yeah, you have still low range on Tristana in the early parts of this, but you're still ranged, so you can do well. But Zeka with a nice trade back, actually, more than a lot of Silas players would have hoped to have there at level 3 into a Tristana, looking for another one.
Ooh, explosive charge going to connect there, and he gets the full stack. Still only going to be evenly trading, and Kingslayer does give Zeka that extra amount of sustain in this lane.
Yeah, and he hits the Q square on. That's going to cause BDD to rocket jump his way out of there.
Yeah, it's not a great position in the wave as well as, okay, perfect.
Yeah,
He's already teleported back, though, so it's kind of fake.
Well, definitely a bit of an aggressive teleport to try to punish Zeus and cost him some CS here, as Zeus will have the later teleport now as the wave is crashing. So getting a small advantage up there, actually pretty nice to see.
Yeah, because one of our players that has had a Nidalee license, so we tolerate this one. Perfect, still putting on the pressure as we can see, but Zeus still not using that teleport.
Yeah,
it's just trying to get what he can.
Hard to kill an Ambessa, so even though he put the pressure on and Zeus, he wants Zeus to TP back and cost him CS, he can just hang out.
Oh, and with the teleport down now for Perfect, it means that this swap is so much more punishing.
It's so good here for Hanwha Life, because now Viper shows up and Ambessa just goes straight to the bottom lane. In fact, Zeus is going to go straight there without even passing by Go. And we'll just go straight down to the bottom lane and push that in.
He really hates items, man. He just doesn't want items. He's not interested.
Well, when you consider...
now he's going to push the wave and go back. Oh. He's on a ward, so that little fake not actually going to do too much there as Rocket Jump just for some extra damage here from BDD. Explosive charge with the delayed damage helps him win out on the trade, at least for the minute.
Didn't end up being, I think, as successful as Zeus wanted it to be. That little tempo teleport of his own to the bottom lane. We'll head down now with 2 long swords.
Yeah, almost felt like a waste, but...
The thing about Ashe into Kalista is because of her slows, it makes Kalista so difficult to utilize the way that you'd like to. But when you have a Renata on top of it, if you go into the Kalista trying to slow her, she just kind of stands her ground and then gets bailout, and you can never win the all-in. So the Nico needs to do big work. And if Nico misses everything, then Viper and Delight just go, okay, well, we're still pushing. So yeah, this is a very comfortable position for Hanwha Life.
Peter really wanted to find something there as the Shape Splitter not quite doing too much. Zeus, once again, picking up waves. Perfect with a good advantage here for the start of this game. I was a little bit worried about him on the Gwen, but he's done a great job thus far.
Do have Peter.
Oh dear. Okay, handshake going to go straight through as Peter does manage to snare them. And also the Blooming Burst doing some work there as Cuz is moving up. Bailout now down, but it's on to Viper, and that's going to mean that Delight has to flash, pounce forward. First blood for Cuz.
Cuz, the spear accuracy has been great in this second game.
He used up all of his misses on his impales in the last game, okay?
That was really well played. Excellently baited as well.
Some needlework here towards the bottom side as the ulti to come out from Zeus. Let's see whether he can actually win this one as the extra healing helping Perfect out. So a trade of ultimates, and now, okay, Zeus still wanting more. He's landing all these buttons. One more, and the flash forward's gonna do it, and Perfect, you saw that.
Yeah,
Didn't like how that one worked out.
Hands right off the keyboard into almost a little angry clap there. Not happy with how that went for sure. And up here on the top side, Hanwha Life getting back control as well.
He just needed to flash earlier, right? And I think that's why he was frustrated, as he pressed the flash button anyway. Good handshake is going to come in onto Cuz, but BDD is turned up, and Delight is once again in trouble. Another kill comes forward, as that's the decoy that they're fighting for the moment, and KT is going to be okay with this. Zeka with a buster shot now, built up for himself. Not going to connect those chains, but he knew that because he had a ward. Still KT with a slight advantage, but with the fact that that solo kill happened against the Gwen,
it's not as great as it could be.
Still a worry, yeah.
Perfect's trying to stack up his Q here and do enough damage to win this trade, but fortunately Zeus actually handles this super well. Once Perfect's out of Q stacks and, you know, out of cooldowns, doesn't have his ult anymore, Zeus can just run him down. He flashes here, he's fine, but
yeah,
waits just a little bit too long, is caught in the animation. And Delight here, again, a bit aggressive. Second time he's kind of overstayed his welcome, and they should have been calling out that BDD was missing here, so Delight just gets run down BDD with a nice ult to finish him off, and unfortunately with the late rotation of Zeka, there isn't really a punish opportunity here with how low Viper is, so still a big win for KT. They have a small gold lead here, but if that disaster hadn't happened bottom lane, they'd be feeling a lot better. And it was Perfect attempting to make an outplay and failing, which is the part that feels the worst about it.
Yeah, and the big problem is that it has flow-on effects, right? Now Zeus has full control of the wave. He's going to be able to build a big advantage already, has about a wave in the lead, although that will be evened up as Perfect picks that one up. Still, can be a worry because we know Zeus is pretty good at carrying games of League of Legends. That is kind of his MO and has been for the last few years.
Yeah.
Zeka not finding those chains, picked the wrong juke.
And with a squishy Nidalee, I mean, even Nidalee becomes a target for Ambessa later on.
Oh yeah, I mean, everyone's a target for Ambessa. Everyone's squishy on this team.
Yeah, there just isn't really a front line. I mean, Gwen is relatively fine because of her sustain, but, you know, if you're behind, then not anymore. In the 1v1, you lose the side lane, and then Gwen just doesn't do things. And they adjusted her power level to be stronger early, and Perfect tried to budget into that, but ended up failing, as we mentioned before.
Not quite working out. Still, a better game state than the last game, I think, especially with the fact that Cuz and BDD are decently ahead. As you can see here, close to 500 for the Nidalee, and BDD, even in this laning phase, as we can see, doing quite well.
Yeah, grabbing that kill in the top skirmish gives him a lot of extra gold, and he's just been putting the pressure on, constantly giving cryo for Cuz on this Nidalee.
All right, Fate's Call comes down. Viper looking for it here as Peter gets rendered, but he just flashes away. Docdom does the same, and they invest 3 summoner spells in trade for Viper's flash.
Yeah, Cuz.
Oh dear. Zeka very, very close to falling down there. Does get delayed and also misses that cannon. And that is plate gold going over to BDD. That is that advantage. Only extending. As okay, Arrow going to connect here onto Peanut. A Cyclone comes in and Cuz has to flash away. The Pop Blossom a little bit disjointed and Peter is going to be taken down. There's kill number 1 for Viper. Hostile takeover going to come on through and Cuz able to pounce over the wall. Docdom getting to relative safety and now the spears are coming in. There is no Tristana coming down though. And it is going to be HLE able to limp their way out. I mean, nicely played.
I do feel like when the gank failed, KT really wanted to get a cross map of some kind. Cuz was like, maybe I get something on a Zeka. They end up getting the plate. They deny a cannon. Hold up. More in the mid lane.
Yeah, Zeka really wanted to find something. Buster shot going to be thrown out there as Cuz just decides he's pouncing on in. And Zeka had just teleported. And Spear going to be avoided nicely by Zeka, who clears out the minion wave as well. And you know, he just came back from base, but he clears out the wave pretty fast, so he's going to be able to go for another reset.
Could have been worse, but they really wanted to force something in the bottom lane. It's just the bottom, you know, 80 carry support synergy just seems like it isn't fully there yet between these two. It wasn't there with Wei, and a bit of a late addition with Peter. Hasn't quite figured it out yet.
Is Docdom going to be okay?
He does not have ult, but he is Ash.
He moved quite slowly, and no flat. He's so dead. Like, I feel like there was a ward there the whole time. Like,
yeah.
Oh no, it was a control ward. It was a control ward in the brush for HLE, so maybe you didn't see it there.
Yeah, I don't think he saw. I don't think he quite saw, but still a bit of a dangerous situation. But wants to push the advantage. Gets a plate, but dies for it. So now 2 kills to the Ambessa, and a plate picked up as well. Feels like 1 step forward, 2 steps back here for KT in so many of these exchanges.
Hey, but not as many steps back as game 1.
True.
So there we go. We're all about the positives here. As we're going to have a look at it one more. Do we have to? Well, he hits every button, so nicely done, Zayas. He's like, yep.
I don't know if that was the one I would have picked to do first-person view on, but you know, I mean, we take them when we can get them.
Yep. Well, we've got 3 Tristanas running around this bottom lane. Zayas not going to pick the battle with BDD, who does have Collector now completed.
Yeah, he's in a position to potentially pop off in a team fight, absolutely. And the gold lead is non-existent in this game. Like, it feels like Hanwha is so ahead because they have this big problem of this Ambessa, and the Gwen isn't doing the Gwen thing that she's supposed to do, and there's been some sloppy fights, but KT are still absolutely in this, especially if they can snowball a fight with this Tristana.
Yep. Speaking of Tristana, BDD really making sure that he gets the cannon. You love to see that as, whoa, that was an arrow. Was that coming from Zeka, though? That's the question. And yes, it was.
Yeah.
So that's why he had to flash it. Man, that could have been really confusing because he's like, oh, but the Ashe is on my team, so I'll be fine. No, not fine. And thankfully, he's not as silly as I am. Needlework landing onto Zeka here on the top side of the map as there's a teleport in as well. Peter's moving over as there's another arrow and another mid laner using their flash. But can he avoid the rest of it? And the answer is yes. Still going to be this turret falling lower and lower. And remember, this is 5 grubs for KT. Doctorm, once again in an awkward spot. Good sidesteps. He's still dead. As once again, Doctorm out of position will get rendered down. This turret does fall, though.
First turret. So that's a big win here for KT Rolster that they need so desperately right now. And it's going to be Viper picking up a plate in turn. I do think it was a fantastic cross map. Dragon was never going to be something they could take there. They look for the play top side. If Zeka doesn't flash that arrow, he also dies, and they get the turret. It's just that Duckdom stuck around way too long there and ends up dying a second time. Has been arguably probably, I'll just say it, I feel like he's been the most criticized player that we've had in 2025 thus far because we've seen so much better from him, and he just has not delivered. And I think a lot of people wanted to see hype on this roster. They did not get it, and
this is the thing. It's always to do with what the other options are.
Yeah, it's the opportunity cost.
We were talking about, you know, LM yesterday as well, right? On the bros. Like, Humbug exists, so you have to be better than him. And I don't think he was. Even though, you know, the Nefiri game was kind of okay, Humbug was fantastic in the LCK Cup and in the Kesper Cup. That's why they won.
And I think I've probably been Duckdom's biggest supporter over the years.
And we know, like, the problem is that he was that guy, but he's not anymore.
Yeah.
And I think we have to accept that.
Well, I think he can be again, but we're still waiting. And that is the concern.
I think, like, Doctorm was the player where we saw so much potential in him. Even right when he debuted, we were like, man, this guy, after some refinement, is going to be amazing.
This is a potential turret take here.
Arrow is going to go wide, so Doctorm, unfortunately, just not really finding too much there. Still, ooh, that spear very, very close. That had landed. Might have been just a dead Viper.
That was
or at least
really
one that has to get away.
Really heavy investment there, and I think, you know, if there was not a Wukong in the vicinity, they probably would have committed a little bit harder there. And it cost BDD some CS, some damage to this turret. They don't get the turret, but if they had stayed, Peanut just carries that as BDD. Whoa.
Oh dear. Well, Peter is moving on up, finds a Pop Blossom.
There's an angle.
Yeah, spear is going to connect. Gorgeously done. And it's the buster shot to bust Zeka's skull. And that's going to take him down. So now they're able to push up this top wave. Perfect here towards the bottom side, just trying to avoid Zayas as best he can.
A color commentator was not looking at the mini-map in that moment. I was like, BDD, you don't know what's going on. But no, he knew his whole team was coming up. Well, you know, 2/3 of it was coming up. And that was going to be a big win for him. Nice angle onto Zeka there, gets the punish. And that's 2 kills now for BDD.
Yeah.
The main character of KT Rolster. And the only one who could carry this game.
Yeah.
Again, surprise, surprise.
And he was the main character on Longshu. He was the main character on Genji. Now, main character on KT.
And arguably on Nongshim as well.
Oh, that's true. I do like to forget that Nongshim roster as often as I can because it was mainly depression. But yes, you were absolutely right. Okay, that was a fake Peter. Was in that brush. Viper is once again absolutely terrifying in this game.
He is quite strong. Was given an opportunity in Game 1 and in Game 2. Still has a pretty hefty lead. Although part of that is due to the fact that Duckdown was removed from the map twice. And he got some nice tempo advantages. Is ready to, with some engage and some setup, pop off in this game. And there's such a great front line. There's such good engage here for Hanwha Life. They have Prio on this Herald as well. And KT trying to find their way into this one. It might just be better off letting Perfect take a turret bottom side and giving this one.
Looks like that might be what they're trying to do as the teleport comes in from Zeus to put him in good position.
Yeah, you got a TP. Just let this one go.
There is a lot of just on-demand vision for KT with Hawkshot, with the Shape Splitter, and all that sort of stuff. KT can just kind of find out what's going on in almost every area. There's also a lot of clones in this game, which makes my job very difficult.
I think this was the right call from KT. You know, you've got a Gwen on the side.
Yeah.
Take out that whole turret. You got the teleport from Zeus. Just kind of stick around the Herald, but don't commit.
And now Delight finds himself in an awkward spot. Fate's Call has to be traded for the arrow. Good arrow that time from Duckdown. And Spears connecting. KT utilizing this range advantage very well. That's what their composition does, remember,
yeah.
right? Like, they don't have any beefiness. They have to make sure that HLE are never at a point where they can just hard engage, because as soon as they are, I mean, KT will die.
Yeah, KT have their own engage, but it's just really a Nico, right? And they have the Ashe, and they can catch a single target out. And they have caught Delight now 3 times. This time he survives with Viper's Fate's Call there. Did have his flash as well, but he'd rather keep that one. But you could see the angles here. BDD has such a huge lead over Zeka right now. And
this is feats of strength.
Yeah, this is huge. They're going to teleport BDD mid. I think they are going to look for the contest, but it's so slow.
Yeah, Hawkshot is going to fly over. I think Cuz getting the bad news here, knows that he's not going to be able to get in. So that's some upgraded shoes here for HLE. And BDD does manage to grab this turret. Does the continue walking forward strategy to avoid the arrow that was hijacked.
I mean,
yeah.
They do have 2 Drakes, Hanwha Life, and it's Infernal Soul. This is a bit of a problem for KT, like a significant problem, especially considering both Elemental Drakes are quite relevant. But I do like that KT are not opting into fights that are unwinnable and are instead trying to play to the map, trying to play to taking structures, which is why they have a gold lead in this game right now, despite being down a kill, despite being down objectives. And when you have this Tristana Gwen, which is part of why I love the Tristana lock-in for KT in that B5, is you can just kind of avoid fights and avoid that meat grinder, which is Hanwha Life's composition. Eventually, though, you will have to show up, and that's going to be potentially in this next Dragon fight, but they bought themselves some additional time.
Ooh, Arrow going to be flying into Delight here, looking to try and get another Fate's Call, but that's on cooldown, so Delight is just dead. Peter's the one that actually picks up the kill, even though the explosive charge was there. But KT, another great pick.
They've got that single target, and they keep finding Delight out 4 times now. They're able to find an angle onto the squishy Renata, and this time they secure the kill. Does go over, like you said, to Peter, but still valuable, and that's going to allow them to keep pushing Vision up.
Yep. The more tempo that you can maintain in this game, the better it is for KT. And even if it is just a kill on a support, that is still giving them that extra positional advantage. There is the problem in the bottom lane that we can see here in the form of Zeus. Part of what KT want to be able to do is win side lanes so that they can then continue to have a lot of pressure, with Zeus being as powerful as he is now, picking up his second item.
Yeah, the problem is Perfect is just not relevant in this game right now. I think
Yeah.
if Gwen was actually really strong, the double side lane angle I was talking about would be a little bit more relevant. Now he just kind of wins when no one's there. Well, he still kills turrets fast, but he's not going to do it if someone else is there. Hanwha Life know that he doesn't have teleport, though, and they are going to grab this Herald drop and even potentially turn this into an Otacon take if KT are slow to respond. Remember, Perfect not showing on the map once he clears this wave, and it's going to take him a while to get up, though.
Yeah.
Hanwha Life have so much tempo here.
Hawkshot flying over. Peanut spotted, starting this Otacon. And remember, it is dangerous, especially when KT can just take pot shots at them. Let's see whether Peter can line up a good engage angle. The Shape Splitter coming on in now. Spears still just trying to find the mark, and KT setting themselves up. Zeka now with that explosive charge on him, but there's the public execution. Pop Blossom going to be used, and BDD trying to get himself over the wall. Buster shot to get rid of Zeus, and it's now a cacophony, but KT are winning it. There's the bailout, but it is not enough, and KT just put HLE in the ground.
This was a very disastrous fight for Hanwha Life. Right before that happened, I was about to say, I mean, the best part about the Zonacon take is you've got Cyclone to deny them the approaches, and Nidalee on the other side. It's so difficult for KT to come in for the steal. When Peanut goes in, though, they commit to the fight, and they basically engage on themselves. They walk right into a Pop Blossom. The other thing about KT is they didn't have Flash for Peter. He's their best engage. It's hard for him to get in there with the Cyclone, with the setup they had, but unfortunately, everyone piles in on Peanut's call, and the Pop Blossom just wins the fight for KT. Big error of judgment there from Hanwha Life. I thought Peanut was just going to sit back and defensively deny them entry, but they just tried to turn that into a sweeping team fight win, and they fell completely flat on their faces.
I love that from Peter, though. I was a bit confused at the time, mainly because Pop Blossom's so important, right? And there is a Silas. If that was a Silas Pop Blossom, that was an HLE win, but it was not. It was Peter with the most beautiful disengaged Pop Blossom, like you were saying, and that puts KT in the best position that they have been in so far this series. 4,000 gold in the lead. 4 turrets to 2 as well, and keeping our eye on that is going to be really important. Map control for a comp like this is paramount.
It was mentioned on the space. Peter loves to engage. He tried to do it on the Alistar. It wasn't working out. He's 100% KP in this game. He's found so many angles on Delight. Had that defensive Pop Blossom to win them that last fight. Super relevant in this game, and now KT are feeling really good about taking this first Infernal Dragon.
Yeah, and if KT somehow managed to win even another game in this series, no matter what Peter does in Game 3, I'm giving him POM. Because even in Game 1 on his Alistar, he was the one that was making a lot of these proactive plays, trying to get something to happen. And I just really like the gusto from the man. He's so easy to like, you know, as a player.
Absolutely.
So honestly, any game that KT wins, it's always a Peter angle. It's just how it goes. Teleporting into the mid lane here from BDD just to try and catch this wave. HLE unable to really find too many angles here, especially with these arrows flying in, the spears flying in as well. Cuz looking for another one. Zeus able to sidestep it.
I'm not really sold on Viper's build this game either, to be honest.
Oh,
like
the classic lethality?
Lethality Callista. When, I mean, they don't have a lot of range, so he's looking for some poke, but I really feel like you need to just win the fight off of your teammates engage with just normal damage and not trying to poke away at them. The Edge of Night's going to be helpful into this composition, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's the reason why he decided to go lethality. But it's definitely not doing him any favors with the game state now.
Not quite. It is difficult to play, as now Zeus is just going to get blocked off. They don't have quite the luxury of the amount of vision control KT does have just in their kits. KT's still going to get pressured away. Remember, if HLE just group up as 5 and find a target, it is going to be pretty difficult for KT not to just instantly die. As Arrow picked up by Zeka. And the Infernal Drake getting aggressive. HLE getting chunked out by just the Dragon alone. But look at Zeus finding this flank angle. Gets a Cinder for the speed up as well. Remember, the public execution going to be such a big deal. And BDD already just jumping on in. That is going to be Peanut locking down the Drake. KT, though, they're looking for this Ambessa, who's just thrown around like a ragdoll. There's a Pop Blossom landing on a 2. Viper nailed by the arrow, and 3 are on the ground in an instant.
And the good news for Hanwha is you got the Dragon. The bad news is you got wiped again. And I think it was a great call by BDD to chase the Zeus on the flanking Zeus, chase the Ambessa there, deny his entry, keeps Ducktom super safe there in that situation. And that's a team fight win here with longer deaths, your respawn timers here, and a Gwen Tristana. They could just try to push to end. They've got enough minions here.
Oh,
it's gonna be a tough defense.
Okay, yeah, let's not get overly enthusiastic, because there's a huge Pop Blossom from Zeka. It's just not enough to actually take anyone down. The first Nexus turret falls. Peanut using his decoy effectively. But the mid laner does fall. KT decide that 1 Nexus turret is enough.
Yeah, I think if that Pop Blossom is not as big as it is, they probably just end up continuing to push, but everyone took so much damage in the interim. Viper was respawning. They decided to back away. But there was a real angle to end the game there for sure. It needed a heroic defense, and they absolutely had it with Zeka there. Going back to this fight, look at Zeus on the flank. They collapse onto him. knowing that for Hanwha Life, their goal is really the Dragon here.
Flash forward from BDD.
Yeah, BDD is just in sicko mode right now, and sure, he doesn't get the initial kill with the Buster Shot, but it doesn't matter because the rest of Hanwha is just super cut off. Viper trying to be relevant on this lethality. Kalista, but he's so low range, just straight into another Pop Blossom from Peter. Zeka with the 4-man here is enough to defend the base, but things are looking pretty dire right now for Hanwha Life. If they can get that 4th Dragon, then maybe there's a way back into this game, but 8,000 gold behind, I just don't see that fight happening. Not their way.
And Inhibitor down in the mid lane is probably best case scenario here for HLE. Means that as they're jostling for position, you can still just clear out that wave with the super minions and not be too worried about it. Because the Baron, next thing on the menu. 8,000 gold, though, is the lead for KT. They're 100% in the driver's seat, and you can guarantee that it's someone else's fault. We're not getting excited this time, okay? There is no chance that I'm going to be overly enthusiastic about KT because they could just start Baron and lose the game, right? That could happen at a moment's notice.
I think there's a high statistical chance they secure this Baron.
I mean, in theory, you're absolutely right. But
I'm just saying, like, I'm just looking at the data. I'm not saying that I believe that it'll happen. I'm just saying it looks favorable from like a maths perspective and the numbers and the 5,000 gold lead for BDD.
If we're considering reason, you're absolutely right.
But
reason need not apply.
No, but I won't say it that I think it's going to happen. It just seems like you could make an argument that they would win
KT
this
have put
game.
themselves in the best position to win this game.
Yeah. They certainly could do it. It looks feasible.
Signing off at 27 minutes that KT have a good game state as Peanut is going to get another control ward in this pit. Diving on top of Cuz here, but of course he can just bounce his way out. KT really not wanting to flip this. Not at all. The real problem is that they have to either go for a flip or find themselves a pick.
And now you're dealing with Peter. He's got his arm guard. I mean, it's just so hard to engage onto KT at this point. I mean, they've got great engaged tools to set Viper up for success, but when you don't have vision and you're fighting into incredible turn with the extremely fed, Tristana, it's just so hard to actually make a play. But I do like that KT don't allow the flip. They don't go for a play that could just burger flip themselves into a 0-2. They had a winning position in game 1. They flubbed it. Have a winning position here in game 1. Now they have one in game 2 as well. And they do not want to make the same mistake. I'm sure the coaching staff had a lot of choice words for them, and it's probably ringing through their ears right now as they play this one out very safely. Play to the Dragon initially here. Continue to outscale the composition for Hanwha Life that's so hard to play at this stage.
We can see Peter now able to get in here and clean out yet another ward. And so HLE going to have to get over there and get more vision down. And you're right, but I do think that with Soul Point on the cards for HLE, they put a lot of inherent pressure on. I think KT would have really liked to be able to force out a Baron or at least force HLE into an awkward spot so that they could get positional advantage around the Dragon. Instead, it's going to be a pretty even fight for it.
You know, interestingly, most of the time you don't want to trade Baron for an Infernal Soul, but I feel like with the game state here, KT could do that. It's a viable option with the low range here for Hanwha. They could just siege them up and win the game off of it. So I think Hanwha have to be super careful about it because the Infernal Soul isn't going to defend the Baron necessarily. Sure, it'll help, but KT might just be able to end off of it. So very stressful situation here now for Hanwha Life. They have to make every right choice, and the poke is continuing to land.
Yeah, more and more spears flying through. Cuz able to steal away the enemy blue buff there as well. It's going to be helpful as they set up this poke. But KT, in the meantime, have been able to just take down this Dragon. Everyone able to dash over the wall.
Yeah, they just sieged them up, bought enough space, used the mid push, which, like you said, like you can deal with that pretty well as Hanwha, but they had enough push there with it that they secured prio for the Dragon. So deny that from Hanwha. Now have their eyes on a reset and a rush to Baron. Hanwha are grouped in closer. Zeka does have TP, but they don't have the setup or the damage really right now to rush one. And also, Duckdom's just going to hang out and make sure it isn't happening. They drop a control ward in the pit. And they are really dotting their I's and crossing their T's in this one. They are not going to give up another, basically one game.
Yeah. And BDD has 4 items. He's finished his shield bow now as well, so he's big damage, dude. At this point, I know that there are other acronyms that we could utilize, but not on this broadcast, unfortunately. You guys will just have to try and figure out what they could be. Is Delight looking for a bit of a wrap around here to try and get some vision into the pit? Does do so. KT able to get locked down this whole position. And Zeka with an enchanted crystal arrow, Cuz trying to grab that Grump from downtown.
I mean, they have vision cleared out. They're playing super far forward here. Look at how blind Hanwha are, trying to find an angle.
Oh, well, Arrow is going to connect onto Cuz. They're going to blow him up or attempt to, but he goes golden. I just don't know whether he's going to be able to get out the hostile takeover. It almost actually gets him out of there, but now the fight has been engaged. The Pop Blossom is decent, and now it's BDD looking for the resets. He locks down Zeka. He's already found Peanut, and Dump goes down, but BDD is the one that means everything for KT. Perfect now has the matter in his own hands, but everyone's dashing away. And HLE! Oh no! KT now left in the dust. That's the ace. And Viper, even though he is this weird lethality Callista, he's still lethal, ladies and gentlemen.
Bail
and they're
out.
gonna look to grab themselves the Baron.
Bailout, baby. There was never any doubt for Viper in that team fight. What a flub here from KT. They have so much vision, they have so much control. The pit is cleared, they could look for a turn, but instead, Cuz is out pushing on the red buff into so many engage tools for Hanwha Life. All it takes is one. They're chain it together, and sure, they trade back the kill onto Peanut instantly. Zeka goes down, but watch Viper. Viper will carry when you give him these opportunities. Bailout gives him just enough to kill the other carry. Both ADs down, and no one can close the gap. Zeus is Viper's bodyguard at the end of this, and Perfect is just desperately trying to snip, but Viper, he cleans up house again. And I just thought this game wasn't winnable, to be honest. I wasn't hyped for KT. The composition, the game state, everything, but KT gave him the perfect opportunity, and Viper seizes those every single time.
Take my POMs, Viper. This guy.
It's not over,
It
but
doesn't matter what the build is when you're that good, I guess.
it's not over, but now HLE have a Baron to work with. There's a ton of standing gold on the map for them to pick up. And this situation should have never happened.
Yep. Beautifully done. And now KT, they're back on the map. Of course, there's not a whole lot that was picked up outside of the Baron, as hostile takeover is not going to be enough to make sure that Delight survives. So that is going to put a dampener in this Baron. It is already under just the default gold that you get from killing it. And so KT still in the driver's seat. They still have a gold lead. And the arrow is going to sail through and lock down Doctorm. Another defensive Pop Blossom. Peanut cannot do anything.
Can't get in there. Peter says no.
Like, everyone has to be in line, right? Like, everyone has to engage at the same time. Otherwise, it doesn't work for HLE, and then you just, all of this damage gets rained down on top of you, and you can do nothing about it because you don't have the range. And KT, they're not letting the little ace get the better of them this time.
They don't have a minion wave, though, and they're kind of just using Voidlings to siege the Nexus turrets, wasting quite a bit of time here. No objective up to take, of course, with Baron in the hands of HLE.
All right, Doctorm.
Doctorm, you're by yourself. So maybe just back up. Maybe just back up. Just get out of there.
Sometimes you just want to press some buttons, okay?
Hanwha Life are not going to just walk into the bush here, right? With no dragon up, right? No, they would never.
Zeus was like, is that once again just Ashe standing in lane doing nothing? That happened before.
That was Doctorm's plan all along.
Oh, wow. Perfect throwing out the needlework here as Hawkshot gives some vision over, but Perfect now just not going to have his ultimate. A little bit weird.
I mean, it was quite comical to see Peanut force the follow-up on that arrow, die, and then they almost lose the game, but there's no minions, and now Hanwha still have a chance. They have Baron as well on this mini wave that's coming through for 30 more seconds to try to get some prio back. Dragon's up in 5 seconds, and KT are not on it. They want to win a fight first.
And it's Infernal Soul once again. Zeus looking for a bit of an angle, but misses a whole bunch of buttons. Gets a shield.
I mean, HLE just got to the Dragon kind of for free here. KT need to get Peter into position to engage. That's still a Callista on a Dragon.
It's still going to be very hard to stay on this Dragon, but they do so much damage to it. Cuz really going to have to try and land this fight. Remember, there's a Rend. As okay, Pop Blossom stolen by Zeka, doesn't do too much, but they get the Infernal Soul still. Look at this damage. BDD with the Buster Shot saves his own life as Peter trying to get in there. One with the Pop Blossom, but it's not quite enough. Still BDD free hitting over the wall. It's a double for Perfect, who goes golden, and now Zeus gonna be taken down. BDD with the triumph, stays alive. There's an ace, and I think KT may have just brought us to a game 3.
You're not sure, but you want to believe.
You're never sure with KT.
I think there's a pretty even higher statistical likelihood that KT wins the game from here.
There is a high chance that if this Nexus explodes, KT will have an opportunity to go to a game 3. That is likely happening, and in fact, it is. KT with their first win of 2025.
KT's whole game plan is kill Dragon, no, but win team fight around Dragon, yes. And they did give so many of these Dragons to Hanwha Life Esports, but won so many critical team fights. I think Hanwha will always be looking back, and the coaching staff will always be looking back at that bizarre Peanut engage when they had Otacon under their control. That was the moment that KT got control of the game, and they really just, minus one minor exception, did not give it back.
There is always that one time. Last time KT lost the game over it. This time they were able to rally once again. Certainly still some questionable moments from KT, but it wouldn't be a KT game without them. I do think it was a largely finesse-based draft, though, and KT made it work for themselves. I think Cuz was phenomenal on the Nidalee, really making it work throughout the entirety of the game. You can see there doing second damage when they have like the giga powerful Gwen at the moment. Perfect, able to get that one, and it did work out in the end, although not necessarily the best. BDD obviously star of the show, but it's always him and Cuz, man.
Yeah, big damage difference. I think they played a hard to win with draft, but Hanwha Life's draft was even riskier, and they played right into KT's hands.
They certainly did. It's time for us to take a short break. When we get back, we get another dose of KT versus HLE. Let's hope we survive.
치고 있다. 오른쪽에 안 나궁 5초야, 나궁 5초야.
몸 좀 넣어줘야 돼, 몸. 몸 넣어줘.
도현이 넣어야 될 듯.
안 뱉어 줄게. 오케이, 안 뱉어 보자. 안 빠지고.
이거.
안 뱉어 보자. 앞에 앞라인 봐줘, 여기 앞라인 봐줘.
천천히 볼게, 천천히.
잠깐만, 천천히. 좋아. 앞에 봐줘.
별로, 천천히. 앞라인부터 볼게.
앞라인 봐줘.
빨리 잡았어.
좋아.
미드 갈게.
해줄게. 나이스. 나이스.
This is just their second regular season game, but you know, as the Spacers were talking about, going 0-2 as defending champions, as first stand champions, is not the experience anyone was expecting. Only Ox was able to predict that maybe the hangover would set in and Genji would beat them in the first one, but I think pretty unanimous on the votes against KT here.
Yeah.
Now, as we move into this third game, obviously a lot of champions are gone. The Ashe is gone, the Kalista being gone gives you a lot of flexibility as red side KT here. You don't have to worry about that one.
Ahri being banned is a really interesting one.
Yeah, they banned the Viego as well last game, potentially expecting that Ahri-Viego duo would come out. Really just trying to narrow down what BDD can play through here because he has just been so good.
Yep. It was Yone, Gwen, Neferi in game 1 for KT as their red side bans. Now you don't need to worry about the Gwen. Neferi, the only other real option here. We saw Vi actually banned on the blue side in game 1 by HLE, but this time it's going to be the Ahri instead that is taken away. BDD's champion pool is taking a bit of a hit. His Tristana looked fantastic, but that's Ahri and the Corki now taken away from him. And so I think Neferi going to be banned away here unless KT have something cooked up.
I think with a Vi ban, it makes sense to just also ban Neferi here and just
Peanut
take that away.
didn't look fantastic on the Neferi.
Still, I still think it's a safe call to ban it. I agree with you, and I also think Neferi is a little bit overhyped. They will leave it up.
Okay.
I mean, Vi has been one of the better answers to the Neferi. That's why I thought banning both would make sense, but instead they will simply ban the Aurora, which has done a lot of lane dominance thus far in 2025, even with some of the nerfs and changes. Varus being up, though, makes it a pretty easy call, especially as the 80 carry pool thins out to get the best one. Does feel quite strong.
Well, it's going to need to be a Neferi pick, but what else is going to be locked away here?
And Neferi into Varus does feel pretty good, as Varus is pretty immobile. Neferi has lots of ways to gap close, can of course just avoid his ultimate with her W. Untargetable.
It really feels like a Cuz champion as well, so I'll be really disappointed if it isn't locked in. Doctom's MF going to be taken away first, but there is the Neferi. So I'm really happy to see this personally, because I just feel like it fits Cuz. Like, this was the Viego guy. He loves playing squishy junglers.
Sejuani, they just grabbed the Jax here, I wonder.
Yeah, you could just, I think locking down a pretty strong top jungle sounds good.
This is cool because now if you want to grab the Gnar, which has been one of the best answers to this, you're going to lose the Rel. And the Rel is so quintessential with setting up these plays with the Misfortune, so you have to choose which one you want. They don't have to play Gnar into the Jax. You could just fight Fire with Fire. We've seen a lot of different champs into Jax, and we've even seen Jax win into Gnar. Zeus in particular has done it quite a few times, but go for Cassante. That is certainly not what I expected with this draft here. It gives them a really nice front line, and it's hard to really stack up advantages on a Cassante and utilize the Jax to really put the Cassante behind, because he's still going to be relevant, but
I like it, actually, because there's a lot of damage coming out of the jungle this time.
It's true. And he's very good into Lethality Varus. Makes it a little bit tougher to break through that front line, if it is Lethality Varus, in fact, that we are going to see.
Yep. Across the world, we've seen a lot more lethal tempo coming out of the Varus, but it can be hard to run unless you're able to outrange. And so far, KT not representing that much range. You can see the Akali going to be taken away from Zeka. We're going to try and remove some of his champion pool. And a lot of his champions are also gone.
Yeah, Relban should be coming through.
Yep, immediately.
That just makes a ton of sense, obviously. I wonder if KT Rolster will ban the Leona, which is one of the big problems for setting up Engage onto the Misfortune while she's trying to channel. They already have great ways to punish her with the Jax, Sejuani, and even the Varus while she is channeling ult, but Leona is another one of those picks that can be a big problem. See what they do go for, because it looks like that's not the theme. They'll take the Braum, which means the less lane dominance and a less powerful level 1. And Braum is really good into Neferi as well. Yeah,
really good into MF at the same time, so trying to avoid the door, not going to be as annoying. Nautilus going to be taken away as well. So Engage at a premium right now.
Maybe they will just take the Leona themselves, but that does leave counterpick to Delight. Alistair's gone, so a pick that we often see into the Leona across many metas across the years is not available here. And they could go for a range support, but I don't know if that really makes sense here necessarily.
Bard could be an option, just because they do have Misfortune. You can use Tempered Fate to the ult, things
I
like
that. I actually think that's a really good idea.
It's going to be Pantheon locked in first.
Okay. And now we're looking for Zeka's pick. I mean, it could be the Pantheon, I suppose.
Yeah, true.
Would be blind, of course, but no matter what you pick, it will be.
It's a lot of physical damage, so I could imagine that it is going to be the support Pantheon. There's the Rise.
Yeah, I was going to say you could go for anything that's late game scaling, big boom boom. Like the Rise, I was thinking maybe Victor could have been a strong option here. Would have been pretty good into the Misfortune, but Rise is very powerful. You have 2 great side laning champions, and you have 2 globals as well with Pantheon Rise to rotate around the map and outpace a Cassante that's never really going to be a side lane threat.
Yep.
BDD, what are you going to play here? Something with setup would feel really nice, but there just isn't that much available.
I just want him to play TF for some reason, but instead
Orianna,
it's going to be Orianna.
I mean, that has some synergy, obviously, with the Misfortune. If you can get people to group up with your big shockwave, then it could potentially set up a combo that way. They have a lot of really nice single target pick in this composition. I love Pantheon into Neferi because you can just simply shut her down. She only has one untargetable. She can only W once, and once you lock her down as she's trying to set up for that reset with her ultimate, she just becomes a bit of a sitting duck. She's not tanky. She's not going to be doing any engaging. That's going to be up to the Misfortune, the Orianna, and to a lesser extent, the Cassante here. I just worry about how the map is going to look here for KT because Orianna in the past has been such a dominant force in sides, but into a Ryze that clears so fast, and into a Jax that is just a menace in the side, and of course it's Zeus' Jax as well. I worry about how KT will ever get control of the map and control of the game, which is how they've been winning most of these fights, and most of the big Ws we've seen from them in this best of 3 have been around map plays and winning out on setup, rather than the team fight itself.
The thing that I find very fun about this is having a look at the channel point predictions. And right now, there's an 18% amount of KT fans that are actually voting for their team. The other ones are busy trying to counteract the KT curse. They are putting all their channel points into HLE, and I see you KT fans. I know that that's exactly what you're doing, and I absolutely respect it. Right now, though, HLE with a pretty nice looking composition. Ryze has really been making a little bit of a resurgence across the world, and we'll see whether it is another string to add to the bow of Zeka as far as his champion pool is concerned. Viper and Delight on a very powerful bottom lane as well. And having a look over at the side of KT, I don't think it's quite enough to make me feel like they are performing the upset here today, but who knows? Game 2 did happen. Let's jump onto the Rift. All right, I love the guy leading the KT fan chants. He sounds just on the edge of sanity, and I think that's absolutely perfect for a KT fan. As KT themselves now stacked up pretty defensively, looking to see whether HLE are going to move in, and they can see that they are. Perfect, just snagged by a piercing arrow.
Just eat a little bit of damage. Comet picked up for Viper, so likely we have our answer in terms of the build he will be choosing. The go-to for lethality. And you've got the Pantheon as well to set up so much of that poke and dominance in the lane. Feels very strong. Could have even gone for Halo Blades if we were living in a different era for more lane dominance, but
Oh, Clockwork Wind-Up.
Ooh, that's your favorite thing, isn't it?
I love it so much.
I'm waiting for the Rage Blade comment.
It's not happening. I'm a Power of Evil fan now. I just wanted to build Nashes. BDD, of course, was a big enthusiast of the Orianna for quite some time.
He played it after she was relevant. He played it when Nocturne was banned, when we were only seeing Orianna with Nocturne. They did not pick Nocturne, and he's playing it. So he does like to play it. He likes to make the big hero plays. And when you're BDD on a team that needs you to make those, I mean, Orianna's got the agency for it. You know, he was known for playing Syndra in the past as well. These mages that can just warp a team fight with a sick play.
Ooh, Zeka moving forward, does manage to get that level 2 first. As Dr. and Peter getting poked out a little bit as Viper pretty happy to have a range advantage here for the first time in this best of 3. And Delight also has the same thing. So it's going to be a bit of a rough time for KT.
Yeah, 3 losing lanes is not a happy Neferi make.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Orianna probably should have a fair bit of control here in the mid lane.
But currently she does not.
No, Zeka is able to grab that level 2, and that really helped out. So that does make things look very dire. But lanes that are pushed up are gankable.
Yeah, until you just walk away, as Zeka is doing right now. And you saw that Cuz came over, thought maybe he could fish for something, but just too respectful is Zeka. BDD, though, even in CS, does not end up losing anything. Flashed. As Zeka looked to flash to kill him, I guess, is what happened there. They both
I guess
flashed.
something happened. There were some flashes that are now down in the mid lane. And I would say that that is generally better for KT. because they're the team that wants to get some earlier kills. And so if the Neferi can set something up, that's going to be very, very strong. Perfect just looking to try and hold the wave as best he can. And that is working out here. Manages to grab that cannon. And look at these caster minions, just barely out of turret range.
Clean.
Yeah, that is a happy Cassante right there.
Just stave off the pressure. Survive, become tanky, give Showmaker nightmares. That's what he's looking to do.
Absolutely. That's all right. Peter in position. Peanut's moving over. Xanathblade is going to come on through as Peter makes a very long journey. Cuz wanting to go in. His Doggo's getting slightly aggressive, but the Ignite not going to be enough to take down Peanut by any stretch of the imagination.
And unfortunately, of the targets Neferi is looking to execute and kill, Sejuani is probably not the one that was her favorite, but was definitely the one that was available, so you did give it a good try.
The college try, as it were. Not that I know what a college try is. Is that like an American sports ball type reference?
Yeah, it's, you know, try really hard because...
Why do you have to try? Wouldn't
I don't
you
know.
succeed?
I don't know. I actually,
why is it called a try?
I don't know.
Isn't that the result?
Sometimes people ask me about American idioms, and I just go, you have to know, you know, if you know, you know, and...
I know that Green Day song about American idioms. It's a really good one.
Yes. That song just, I feel like sometimes just, it's timeless, you know?
It's beautiful. All right, that's enough of that. Zeus is going to throw down his Counter-Strike. Perfect actually playing it quite well here, as we can see. Getting a bunch of these grass procs as well.
Yeah, the wave's going to push towards him as well, so he's kind of just chilling.
Yeah, misses a couple of Qs in a row, so that evens things out for Zeus quite nicely.
He's got a pot and 2 cookies.
Zeus pretty close to level 6, which is somewhat scary if you're a Perfect fan. He only needs a couple more minions. This is so, so dangerous. There's the flash in. I don't know about that one, though. As Zeus does hit that level 6. Needs another Empower or two, but he's just going to back away, not going to push the envelope. And he's the one that used flash. Perfect holds on to his.
Yeah. Perfect tries to unstoppable the stun, fails, but still gets the shield and absorbs a lot of that pressure. Had his pot rolling, then drops a biscuit. Was so far away from 6, though, there was never really going to be an angle for him to turn there, unfortunately for him.
Yep. Did feel like Zeus thought he had the angle.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't quite there.
Even Zeus falls victim to Cassante.
Indeed.
Peter is kind of stuck in an awkward spot. Can't get up to support Duck Dom. This is actually a really good play for Delight. As in the 1v1, Viper is continuing to push there, so putting the pressure onto Duck Dom as well as controlling these grubs.
Ooh, Cuz going to be moving over, get some vision down. And Duck Dom only level 5, so no bullet times over the wall or anything like that. So Cuz now moving in, gets stunned up, and my god, goes untargetable for now. Already, Delight taking a fair bit of damage, but Cuz is out of this fight as well. Peter, and they dive on top of Zeka. He's just completely left to the wolves, or to the dogs, or whatever they are. And now Perfect is moving forward. He's so strong, goes all out onto Peanut, but they're also targeting Delight as well. He's under 100, he knows that he's dead. As Zeus dives in, can he be the champion of HLE? And it looks like he may just be. BDD now just trying to kite him as best he can. It's not going to be enough, but Zeus now may have overextended. Perfect slows him down with a Q. Cuz wanting to get one, but he's obviously got that Counter-Strike back available again, so they're not killing Zeus.
Yeah, Cuz doesn't have 6. He's so close, but doesn't actually have it. I don't know if it would have been enough damage. I don't think so. Either way, can't use it there, so ends up being a trade back there. BDD the most relevant person in this setup for this fight, though, because he's Orianna. Ryze also has ultimate, but it's not really relevant for what you can do in a team fight here, as BDD is able to come over and look for a potential pick.
It's the Shockwave.
Yep, the Shockwave that gets Zeka, gets pulled in, and then, you know, Perfect looks for the follow-up here and they end up chasing down. By the way, all the while, Zeus does not teleport. He walks his way up, so slowly gets his way in here, and they want to go for the punish onto him, but he is, of course, a Jax. BDD dying here means that this is just them biting off more than they can chew. Not 100% sure who got the grubs at the end of this, I believe.
It was
KT.
KT.
Yeah, because Duck Dom went over and secured those.
Yeah, 2-1 now in favor of KT. Gold, not even worth having a conversation about. Feats of strength, it's just 2 kills on both sides, and that is it as far as the direction taken. So now it's as if it was the very beginning of feats of strength and no one's died yet. That's the battle as far as the kills are concerned.
Sure.
Pretty cool, it's cutthroat.
And where the gold goes here is 1 kill for Viper, obviously 1 kill for Zeus, and then 2 kills for BDD.
Oh, God.
The classic, BDD classic, of course, as we always like to say.
Would you say that a fair bit of this game is on BDD's shoulders?
I would, and I feel like I have to say that every time I watch or cast a KT game.
Yeah, maybe we could actually just use a Wolf soundboard for KT games now. And this game all comes down to BDD. That one, I imagine, has been said before.
I mean, we know that this is a meta where a mid laner can carry, and sometimes your ability to do so can make or break games. I mean, we saw Vikla try yesterday, had 10 kills on the Azir, but couldn't get it done. BDD 2-1 in this game, has a significant gold lead over Zeka, who's not having his best series, and has an opportunity. And BDD is known for big engages, right? That's, I would argue, what he is most famous for, and Orianna got it done at the beginning of that last team fight, and maybe he will continue to do so.
Well, let's just see. Right now it is Zeus having a little bit of a look in, see whether he can try and bully out BDD, but he is now at a stage where he's very capable of destroying waves over and over again.
Zeus is significantly behind in farm. You know, he got that kill, but spent a lot of time chasing that down, and now laning into the bottom duo of KT, whereas Perfect pushed the lane in and is totally fine because he's Cassante into this Varus, and Pantheon can now just sit under the turret. And so you see that pretty significant CS advantage actually gives a slight gold lead to Perfect on this Cassante that is just going to be happy to sit back and become a tank boy.
Yeah, this whole wave is going to be lapped up by Zeus, so that should be able to even things out just a little bit. But the fact that Perfect did get such an advantage is pretty impressive here for KT. Still, I mean, we ain't writing home about anything.
No, it's a very even game.
And even though, you know, Zeka having a little bit of trouble in the lane, he's still just going to build his Catalyst, build his tier, and he'll be absolutely fine. Currently stacking where he needs to. Wants that Rod of Ages as soon as he can, but otherwise he will be sitting pretty.
Those poor ranged minions, BD want them so badly. Viper said no. It's a pretty quiet early game outside of that explosive fight we had.
I think it's nice to have some respite, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we know it's going to get crazy soon, so...
Yeah. We need that, you know, the stage of the roller coaster just to really jump onto what Dagon was really trying to sell us. It's that point where you're getting just hoisted to the top, you know, or like as it's on its way up.
I feel like that's when KT is winning, though. Right now, we're kind of at an even state. Zeus is going to grab a plate. We're grouped up on these grubs again. Difficult to enter here against this Orianna. The ball was well placed. Teleport committed.
That's going to be 3. Chains of Corruption comes down, though, and in goes Delight straight into the back of the pit. That's going to be Peanut evening out the grub count, and over the wall goes Doctor. Now Perfect looking for his opportunity. This could be massive for this Cassante, but Zeka takes his opportunity and just locks them down. Delight, he has the bleed on him, but I just don't know whether it's going to be enough to kill him. It's close, but not enough.
Not quite there. Man, that was a very close team fight.
I feel like Perfect may have just murdered his teammate.
Yeah, a little bit there. But Duckdom actually gets a ton done, despite being engaged on, despite being that immobile misfortune. So it's a double TP coming through here, but unfortunately for KT, the faster and closer one is Zek, as he does a lot of work here. But look at Duckdom actually is able to cleanse and flash the wall here, and it puts a lot of damage in over the wall. And yes, Zeka does come in and secure the kill, but dies doing so. It ends up being a pretty even trade here with the bleed and the slow of the Orianna ball. It looked like perhaps Delight was going to be taken out, but not quite. And we're back to kind of even footing, but the gold lead here for Hanwha Life, starting to feel it a little bit.
Yep, they get the Feats of Warfare as well, I guess, but HLE gets an extra 500 gold. That's about it. 3-3 in grubs means that we're not going to see any Void Mites, which is sad. I'm a bit of a fan of Void Mites. I think they're cute. Not going to see them this game. Maybe we'll see them in our next series. Man, it's crazy to think that there's another best of 3 after this. I feel like it's been most of my life in this series.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in my 50s now.
Yeah. Whew. It really does pass you by fast. It's KT now just clearing out some vision, and it looks like the Dragon going to be the next thing on the menu.
Rod of Ages picked up here for Zeka. He's doing the classic rise. As KT have a pretty nice group up here. No teleport for either of the top laners here. See that Perfect is heading his way down. Zeus is taking a back opportunity right now. If KT are able to identify this, they may be able to look for a punish, but they're playing this so slow.
Yeah. Oh, Trinity Force done for Zeus.
Yeah,
that's
a
big deal.
That's huge. I mean, you take that opportunity to go back when you can get it, 100%. He doesn't actually go straight back to the Dragon. In fact, we'll go Up to deal with Perfect instead.
Both of them without teleport, so...
Yeah, it's just... Dragon's going to be sitting there for a while, huh?
Yeah, why don't they like this? This is a Cloud Drake. It's a great Drake. Maybe they're protesting. They're like, that should be the soul. And that I can get behind.
You and I are going to have a talk later about how you can't just say that the Cloud Dragon is objectively the best. It's a subjective thing. KT might have different tastes about that.
No, I mean, it's objectively my favorite.
There you go. KT may tend to agree, though, as they are going to start this one up. And they have, once again, with BDD, Orianna ball control here in the choke. Does relinquish it, though.
Yeah. Cuz looking for a little bit of an engage opportunity. So is Peter. As the Glacial Prison goes wide, the Leona is going to go down. And now Peanut looking for more. Untargetable, though, is Cuz, as his doggos take a bit of the damage. Otherwise, it is fine.
And Peter's just living that Leona life. You know, his team gets the objective, he goes down.
He's so good at heroically falling on his sword. That is such a Peter thing to do.
Yeah.
And sacrifices himself for the dragon. I don't know whether that's worth it, but it was heroic nonetheless.
Well, he's going to feel less good about it if they lose this turret, but it looks like it is going to be staved off. Meanwhile, Perfect putting some damage onto this one, but he is Cassante after all, so I don't think that Zeus was ever worried about losing this one. We'll clear this wave.
Yep.
It's back to kind of square one here. Again, the lead, though, for Hanwha Life is getting bigger each and every moment, especially with that kill, just stacking it up. Now it's 1,000, and they have these big side lane threats.
Perfect missing some Qs, but otherwise playing this lane really well. Even though he is relatively low on health for this moment in time. 20 CS in the lead as the Cassante.
Peter? Okay, that was scary.
Yeah. Okay, as I was singing his praises, it's possible that Perfect is dead. He goes all out. Let's see whether he can get out, and he does. Turret shot taken by Zeus, but that, unfortunately, the teleport a little bit slow. Shockwave comes in, and that's not a Nocturne. That's an Ethereal, and it still works.
Close enough. Also, Zeus dead, but 1,000 kills.
I love it when they come up right as they die. Oh, 1,000 kills. That is 5th in the LCK as well, just ahead of Kana, who's having a pretty good time over in the LEC.
5th and top, of course, to
yes.
fully contextualize, but yeah, I think everybody got it. And yeah, it ended up being a better situation than I thought it was going to be there, as BDD committed the teleport. If they don't get that kill and he commits the TP, it's a disaster. Peter looked like maybe he was in danger, but he commits the recall, which means they can't actually punish initial
perfect
play.
He's a bit frustrated about dying earlier and manages to nail the Q this time around. Doesn't have all out, so I think Zeker is going to survive because like this guy just does not do that much. Oh, never mind. Maybe he does do the damage. Perfect's like, I'm tanky. Looking for the Q. Does not quite get it, but man.
Perfect. If you flash for that, you get him.
Peter can kill him. He's managing to land the Solar Flare, and he's looking to tank this one up. One more turret shot is almost enough to kill him because, man, you lose Eclipse and Aftershock, and you're taking a big chunk, but calculated.
And Perfect doesn't keep his flash, as Peanut looks like he's just barely going to miss.
Oh, my God, are they both going to get out? Well, no, Perfect is not. He does have all out now. As the smite comes in, but the flail is going to take him down once again. Perfect on the floor, but I think that was still really cool. He got Peter a kill, which is great. Turret does go down in the bottom lane and in the top lane here, as we can see. The feats of strength go over to HLE, though, so now we're still battling for these objectives, and another one is going to be taken here by KT.
Yeah, Zeus is also Jax, and he takes half of the inner. Yeah. So it's not really a even trade. And also because Perfect died, things are feeling better for Hanwha in that regard as well. Yes, they did kill Zeka, but they committed a Cassante flash for it. It was very messy, and there was a punish to come through. Herald is in the hands of Cuz, and that's going to be probably just dropped in the mid lane. And we'll see the timing of that might link up with this Dragon to try to give them some additional prio here.
Zeka could be in trouble. There's an Ethereal in the area.
There is, but not going to opt into it.
I love the confidence that Perfect's playing with. I was actually criticizing him for exactly this earlier on today, and the fact that he hasn't been playing with the same level of confidence that we have seen from him in Challenger, things like this, but he often seems so meek here in the LCK.
Yeah.
Not in this game. This guy is just looking for scraps all over the place.
He certainly feels one with Cassante.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure. Just utilizing his kit really well. Not even hitting all of his Qs, but that's, you know, Kasante mains know that's not 100% necessary.
No, it's not what it's about. Is now BDD could be in a little bit of trouble. Delight maybe going a little further than he needs to. BDD finding 2 with the Shockwave, now trying to get out, but the counter-strike should stop him. Permafrost comes in, Peanut just going to do a bit of a fadeaway on that one. And that is a kill onto the mid laner, but they do give up a lot of positional advantage around this map. Docdom pushing in mid, and you've got to push in the top lane as well. As now Perfect going to be moving on over. Piercing Arrow, not going to be able to get rid of all of the minions, but still does manage to get them away from this turret.
And Duckdom, I feel like, is trying to keep, or Peter rather, is trying to keep Duckdom on a leash. It's like, man, we've already done this a few times. We've overextended a little bit. He's running up to make sure that he can get out of there. Nothing bad does happen. Delight did already use his ultimate, so there wasn't going to be a punish angle there or anything like that. But you can see the rotational power of this composition for Hanwha Life, and their side lane pressure is so real.
Yeah.
And KT, they're pushing a little bit with the Kasante, but it just doesn't hit the same. They will be able to grab this dragon, though, as Hanwha Life do relinquish control after that pick in the bottom lane.
Look at that. Like, quintuple upgrades of some shoes.
Yeah.
Well and truly prepared for those feats of strength. And that is quad mercs as well. If you see Glacial Prison, Counter-Strike, Rune Prison, Chains of Corruption, and Delight jumping on top of you, yeah, you're probably going to build Merc Treads.
Not to mention all the magic resistance.
Hey, there you go.
Well, it is a Chemtech Soul, so the 2 Drake lead feeling a little bit less relevant than, for example, the Hanwha Life Drake lead we saw with the Infernal Soul in the previous game. Still relevant, though, and I think this game, if it continues at this pace, Hanwha Life will just outrun KT on the map. KT need to win some team fights. Getting a dragon, getting a second dragon without getting kills, without snowballing the game further, I feel like is not enough. You know, they got 2 kills on the Fury, maybe a third?
Well, Cuz is just going to dive forward. There is once again the combo, and Zeka realizes, okay, that's the world's shortest realm warp, but it's fine. He's just still able to get himself out. And he used all of their CC, as it turns out.
And just roots the Neferi and walks away.
Yep.
Easy peasy. Looked very good for KT for a moment. Now BDD does not have ult.
Yeah, so Shockwave, of course, not on the longest cooldown of all time.
There's also nothing to fight for, so it's probably okay.
Perfect is in this mid lane now, just dealing with these minions. Zeus takes turret shot, and Perfect with another Q charged up, looking for an opportunity here. As Viper's had, it feels like a quiet game. He is sitting on 2-0-2 right now with about a 40 CS advantage.
Yeah.
He has certainly been eating good.
I feel like Zeus has definitely been the most relevant player here in terms of what he's done this game. Like, he's 1,200 gold ahead. He's jaxing really hard. He keeps hitting turrets. He put a ton of pressure on that mid turret. Wasn't able to quite take it out, but it's a breeze away from death now as he's just constantly applying that side lane pressure. Knows that he can continue to do so because both Beryl and Zeka, or sorry, not Beryl, I just put Pantheon in my brain. I think Beryl. Both Delight and Zeka can back him up so easily. I'm sure Beryl at home is like cheering him on as well, but
yeah,
you know, the Zeus angle here and how difficult it is to deal with him when we move towards objectives like Baron, like Otacon, is going to be a big problem every time his teleport is up, which it is about to be up in just a moment here, because, you know, Perfect did great in the early game, but isn't going to be able to deal with him anymore.
Well, Peanut is going to get the Captain Jack out of Docdom. He has to flash to get out of the way of the Chains of Corruption, but he passes all of the tests. You love to see it. Cuz now bouncing on top of the Sejuani after throwing down this Rift Herald. Let's see whether they can get themselves a charge, because it was put down in a pretty awkward spot. Perfect in position, though. And now it's Peter. Has a bit of a charge opportunity. Breaks open the turret. And that is going to put KT within touching distance of the gold. 2 minutes on this Drake as well. That is going to be Soul Point. Even though it's Chemtech, still going to be relevant.
Uh-oh.
As Audio Peanut getting hit by the Zenith Blade. Another Shockwave connecting onto 2 because going down so low, he's going to need to go untargetable soon. And he just isn't going to be able to. That is going to be the Rise picking up the kill, and now Counter-Strike right on top of Docdom. Zeus, do they have the CC for him? That's the question. The answer is absolutely not. Peter gonna have to flash out of the way, and he does do so. But HLE demonstrating that, yeah, they're in a pretty good position this game. Now looking for an Otacon themselves. This could be the game broken open.
I thought I mentioned it earlier. You know, the Sejuani's not the one that the Fury normally wants to kill. Because did try his best, and Peanut survives, which means he's geared to smite this. There's no Cuz, there's no KT around this Otacon. It's disaster after Delight is able to chase down with his ultimate as well. There was no getting out of there for KT after such a heavy commitment. They could have been happy with just the turret, but they decided to look for more. If this was Zeka who got engaged on, if this was Viper who got engaged on, it's a beautiful play. But unfortunately, it's a Sejuani who just doesn't really take that much damage. Cuz tries to over-index on this, or well, frankly over-indexes, tries to at least turn that into a kill and fails to do so. And now you can chase with Pantheon. There's no way out of this for Duckdom. That's a carry dead. Peter flashes away, but that's Otacon in the hands of Hanwha Life Esports, and this makes their side lane threats even more dangerous when collapsing on them and killing them is hard enough, but then if they die, they just withdraw and don't care. And there's a Dragon up.
Yeah, Dragon going to be up in 20 seconds time. KT still wanting to withdraw some members of HLE. As you can see, all grouping up here in the mid lane, wanting to fight for their soul point opportunity.
I mean, look at the push here from Zeka, who has TP. He's putting the pressure on that turret, and KT are struggling to rotate over and deal with it. That's just going to be a dead inner.
Yeah. I don't know whether they're going to be able to do anything about that, as they are at least rotating over. Zeka might be in a little bit of trouble. Remember, can withdraw, so he isn't exactly the end of the world. But still, it's giving away this is not a huge deal.
It's not a huge deal, but this is the power of that Rise push. Jack's pushing mid at the same time. They have to go over and deal with the Rise. They barely defend the turret, but it means it's a free Dragon. Zeus wants more.
Oh dear. Duckdom in a little bit of trouble here. Chains of Corruption go wide once again. Oh, it's a decent shield, but not quite enough. And Zeus, he doesn't even have to withdraw.
He will withdraw, you know, by pressing B, but yeah, not a technical withdrawal.
Yeah.
And, you know, Zeka's like,
dead again.
I'm going to finish the job I started on this turret. You chase down one solo laner, the other one pops up, and you chase down the other solo laner, and the other one pops up back in the bottom lane. And then Zeus goes straight to the top lane with a teleport. It's like whack-a-mole. They're killing all these turrets so fast, and as soon as you deal with one, another one creeps up. Oh, we push the Jacks back. Uh-oh, Zek is back in the mid lane, and now this turret's going down. It's just a great macro game here from HLE.
It's really difficult. You mentioned this already, that HLE were going to start pulling them around the map, and that has continued. KT now finding themselves in a 6,000 gold deficit, just sort of by blinking.
Yeah, watch this from Zeus. He knows he has the Otacon buff, so he doesn't care if he dies here. Gets on top of Duckdom. There's a commitment here with the Pantheon as well to guarantee it. Then they just take out the turret, so he walks out scot-free.
Yeah, and he looks so calm while he does it. I would have been screaming. Now, once again, going to be face checking here. 3 versus 1. I reckon Zeus may even like those odds.
Yeah, I think he feels pretty comfortable. He has a arm guard now. An arm guard, he already had the Sunder for a really long time.
Oh yeah.
He's had that for quite some time, and now he's just ready to continue to hit turrets. As is Zeka, but he's got quite a distance to cross before the next one, because there just really aren't that many turrets left here for KT at this stage. 6,000 gold behind. Baron is the next objective. You can just push all this prio forward, push some vision around the Baron pit, and then threaten that take. And KT will have to respond, and this is where, you know, you look at those gold leads here. Zeka, Viper, Zeus, they're just so far ahead. It's so challenging for KT to find an angle. They have that Nefiri Orianna combo. They have Misfortune to potentially look to, with that, layer a ton of damage, but Hanwha Life are very aware of it, and if you don't have vision, it's so hard to set up those combos, and you're fighting blind. The composition for KT feels so much weaker.
Yeah. KT really, it just feels like they don't have a lot of options at this point in time. It's also kind of crazy that Zeka has the most gold in the game when, you know, he died early on. He's 2-3-1, not exactly the most phenomenal as far as like score lines, but he's just been in side lanes, taking structures, and the local gold really stacking up. It was a large reason why Zeus had such a huge lead in the mid game as well, when he was behind Perfect for most of the game when it came to farm. Still is right now, but it doesn't matter. Grabs a couple of kills, has recently added a few extra ones on top of that at the same time. And now he's looking to fight BDD. Let's see whether Peter and Cuz are going to be enough to stop this Jax from destroying them. The Youngbeard comes in. Delight now finds himself in front of 3 people. BDD going to get stabbed as the Pantheon is going to go down, but he sacrifices himself for it. Sidestep there on the piercing arrow is good, as Cuz will find the gap close. And Viper with his Edge of Night is going to be able to stave that one off quite comfortably.
Bit sloppy here from Hanwha, but you can respect the idea. Just hard push. He has the arm guard, so you have that extra time window. Delight comes in. Everyone's so squishy on KT. Want to lock down that target. Ends up being a trade, though. But it's a trade up for Hanwha. You know, mid for support.
That Mega Cone really did not do very much Mega Blasting.
Yeah, it's not quite
really weird.
the way Zeka
Look at
wanted
this.
it to go.
Peter does it. No, it's really big.
Yeah. Joseus goes in here 1v3, but it's not truly 1v3 because Pantheon can show up at a moment's notice. They target BDD. He goes golden. Then they try to force this one. Unfortunately for Delight, the Ignite isn't going to be enough, so he has to go in further to guarantee the kill. He's going to die no matter what, so I think it was the right call there, but they trade one back. But it doesn't do anything for KT's vision control. It doesn't do anything for their lack of map control. They pick off the support here. As now that everybody resets, they're in the same situation they were in before. At least they have a little bit of Baron vision before Peanut clears it.
Yeah, Cuz going to be able to take down his Raptor camp and now move towards a potential Soul Point angle if they would like to. But with all of HLE now around the Baron, I think that's perhaps where they need to pay some attention. Some vision now given over as KT get the bad news that this Baron has been started. You're going to have to back away from trying to get some of this Dragon vision.
Zeus does have teleport, and you know you have to be wary of his potential flank angles. There's just not a whole lot of vision control, or especially control vision for KT around the pit. So, you know, pushing them off is one thing, but doing anything after that, when Zeus isn't showing, you gotta be scared.
Oh dear, Cuz down to half health immediately. Permafrost not going to be doing too much there as Doctum, another Captain Jack. That's going to work out. Chains of Corruption again going wide. And Doctum actually some smooth footwork there as in goes Peter. I don't know about that, but still, they're going to force Zeus to use his Zhonya's one more time. Peanut going aggressive, but it's Peter that goes down. Zeus tries to dive in. This guy is immortal! As Perfect, he goes all out, and that should be able to get him. Never mind! He is actually impossible to kill as HLE are now underneath turrets. BDD had just respawned, it feels like, and is dead once again. That's an ace, and the first stand champs, I think, are looking to win their first series of the LCK 2025.
Man, what a game from Zeus on the Jax. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your greatest top laner of all time, and he's not done yet. He's got one more structure to kill, Atlas.
And it's a Leona. Oh, wait, no, the Nexus. That's what you were talking about. That is going to go down. And Zeus going to have a bit of a stretch here before he prepares for an interview, perhaps. Not entirely sure who's going to be able to pick this one up, but is it?
It's Viper or Zeus?
Yeah, Viper or Zeus is probably.
I'm actually going to have to go Viper, even though Zeus had a phenomenal performance in this last game. It was a macro performance from him, except that incredible last play that he did have, but he was not afraid of anything. But man, I don't know if anyone could top what Viper was able to do in the win in Game 1 and also in the loss in Game 2, where he had a pretty phenomenal game.
Yeah, I would agree.
Despite everything. But I think that Hanwha Life do not fully look themselves. They don't still fully look like they've reached their peak or anything like that. But when it comes to fundamental macro and team fighting, they were definitely steps above KT Rolster tonight.
You can see Peanut looking a little bit tired after that one, maybe not having the greatest of days thus far. And once again, Nefiri loses, Wolf. This champion maybe is not quite as good as people thought.
I think it's overrated. Now, we are talking about defending double champions Hanwha Life here.
Yeah.
Versus KT Rolster, which you can never take too much stock into, but I just feel like against the best coordinated play that the LCK has to offer, it's really challenging to make the Fury work. When you're engaging on Sejuani repeatedly, it's also difficult to make the Fury work, but
yeah.
I said it on the first pre-show of this week, I wasn't sold on the champ 100%, but I think it's still early. I don't want to judge maybe until the end of week 2, when we move into a new patch, we can start talking about it a little bit more, but
yeah, Nefiri going to get a little nerfed in the next one,
Yeah.
so maybe it's irrelevant. Maybe we just don't even need to worry about it. And the doggo is going to be back in the pen before too long. But still, really fun series between Hanwha Life Esports and KT. Felt like we saw HLE come back into form in the middle of this one. You know, the middle of the series.
I can tell you 2 things I know to be true about KT after the series I've learned in their first of LCK 2025. One is that BDD is still the main character.
Yeah.
Everything is about him. And 2, Peter is an upgrade. He looked way better than Wei did. Wei looked out of his element all throughout the entirety of the LCK Cup. And sure, Peter didn't have a perfect series, but he looked way more confident. He looked sometimes disjointed from Duckdom, to be fair, but a lot more confident with how he engaged and some of the plays he was making. And I think that Peter definitely looks, at least from now, in this first best of 3, to have a much higher ceiling than what Wei could have based on seeing a whole split, so to speak, with the LCK Cup. So if you're a KT fan, I think you were worried about Peter coming in. You weren't sure about it. You're not confident now, but you're thinking, okay, well, this looks like it's a solid move. It's a move in the right direction.
Yep. And now all KT need to do is take back the existence of player trading between orgs, and then everything would be absolutely fine. Zeus, though, the hugest problem in this game. This guy's Jax basically just solo won a game of League of Legends.
Yeah, he just, I mean, he's straight up.
This was 1v9.
He had some issues in lane, getting the advantage I think he wanted to have. Perfect played really well, but he just took over the game.
Yep. And yeah, like you say, it's Perfect having a great game on the Cassante as well. It's just when it got to playing the map and playing the team fights, it was this guy right here. This was unfair.
I mean, this is insane. He has the Zhonyas. He absorbs all of Duckdom's ult here with it. And then he gets shockwaved, and he goes in! And then he's like, I got the heal. And then he goes out.
He was like 10 health. And he's still alive! Sundered Sky gets him his health back.
Yeah, Sundered Sky proccing twice there in very critical moments.
My God, that was so unfair. Look at him, and he's nonchalant, just chilling. Just, yeah, no, of course I calculated.
I think it's for him. He just looks at it, he's like, if I die, it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, that's another point.
And he's like, but I didn't, but anyway, we won, so whatever.
Viper also able to still do a whole bunch of damage. This guy's lethality Varus has always been very good, and that stays true. As HLE, I mean, this was exactly the first KT series of the season that we wanted to see. It was ups and downs, it was drama, it was crazy. In the end, HLE managing to right the ship and get back on the horse. Zeus is going to be the one that picks up the player of the match, I think almost entirely for his absolutely incredible Jax performance. But I would say that he just had a pretty good day overall.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't put stock into losses. I thought despite going lethality, the loss from Viper in Game 2 with the winning team fight that almost brought them back into the game pushed over the edge for me. But at the end of the day, you know, with that performance, who could blame anybody for voting for Zeus?
Nope. I think his Jace was fine in game number 1 as well, although not necessarily like his greatest Jace performance, but when you've had some pretty good ones in the past, the bar is set pretty high. I think it's good to be able to have a chat to Zeus as well at this juncture after losing their first series against Gen G, maybe getting some answers as to how they're feeling after first stand, because it is a long double round robin here before we get to MSI. There is a lot of time to sort of sort themselves out. So now it's time for us to throw it over to the interview with Zeus.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Dear for the POM interview translation, joined by Zeus on the side of Hana Life Esports. Congratulations! Thank you. This is your first LCK regular season victory. How do you feel? First of all, after the LCK opening day, I felt like we didn't really perform up to par. And I still feel like there are a lot of parts that we need to fix and work on. And you are the 5th all-time top laner to reach 1,000 LCK kills. So how do you look back on this milestone? You know, I feel like it took way too long for me to reach 1,000 kills, so I feel like I finally got here. And I think I really want to make sure to reach more milestones and make history. Yeah, you ended up dropping game 2. So what did KT give you the most trouble with? I think going into game 2, we actually expected that it would be a tough game. And I feel like we had ended up losing a lot of the team fights. So what was the plan to come back in Game 3? Since it's Fearless Draft, I think we really discussed on what champion is higher on the tier list, so I think that's what really helped in the end. Yeah, your Game 3 Jax performance was on point. And even Smev, while looking at your highlight, he was so incredibly touched, so can you walk us through So I think when I was Jax, I knew that if I'm able to scale well and get to late game without an issue, that I would be really tanky enough. Did you end up watching your cheer video? No, I actually didn't. So when were you gonna watch it? You know, one day someone will show me and I'll watch it. But I don't think I can watch it in peace. I feel like your teammates are waiting and bracing themselves to show you one day. And onwards, your second victory, you will face DN Freaks. This will be your first matchup of the year, so what are your goals? After our title championship at First Stand, I feel like our performance has reached a high point. And I feel like there's so much left to show everyone, and I really want to make sure that we're preparing well and that we're able to show up. And that's the end of the interview with Zeus, and back to the space. Thank you.